Adrienne Ann Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a special session of the City Council to be held on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting such business that may properly come before the City Council.
Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to a special session of the Dubuque City Council for March 2nd, 2022. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during tonight's public hearings. Input options during the live meeting include: in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input for the public hearing they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which public hearing you would like to speak to in the chat function. If you are participating via phone, indicate that you would like to speak when phone lines are unmuted. All phone lines will be unmuted during each public hearing, and city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows: Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
Thank you. And an update for the meeting tonight. We will start tonight's meeting with action item number 1. So first order of business is City of Dubuque Police Chief recruitment process.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file and enthusiastically approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones and a second by Mr. Sprank. So, Mike, do you have a memo you'd like to read?
Yes, thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Upon the retirement of Chief of Police Mark Dalsing in 2021, Assistant Chief of Police Jeremy Jensen was appointed interim Chief of Police. The city then hired a national search firm, GovHR USA, to assist city staff with doing a national search for a new Chief of Police. GovHR USA conducted an engagement process to solicit input from different community stakeholders to develop a profile for the type of candidates that would be sought for the position. GovHR USA then conducted a national search process and did a thorough screening process of applicants to identify viable candidates that met the search criteria. As required by state law, a list of eligible candidates was certified by the City of Dubuque Civil Service Commission. 4 finalists were selected for interview, 3 external candidates, and 1 internal candidate. 24 individuals agreed to participate in 4 separate interview panels, including a community stakeholder panel, a police department employee panel, a leadership team panel, and an executive or core panel. To kick off each day of interviews, the candidate for that day made a presentation on 21st century policing to the entire group of the 24 interview panelists. At the completion of the 4 interviews, all 24 interview panelists submitted to me their rankings of the candidates. Jeremy Jensen has a master's degree in communications and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, both from the University of Dubuque. Jeremy is a graduate of the prestigious FBI National Academy. Jeremy is frequently a guest lecturer throughout the community and has also served as an adjunct professor at Loras College and the University of Dubuque. Jeremy has over 30 years of law enforcement experience and has been a member of the Dubuque Police Department since 1994 and had served as Assistant Chief of Police from 2018 until he was named Interim Chief of Police when former Chief of Police Mark Dalsing retired in September 2021. His previous roles within the department include Captain of Patrol and Mobile Field Force Unit Supervisor from 2012 to 2018, Lieutenant of Internal Affairs from 2009 to 2012, Lieutenant of Patrol and Tactical Team Supervisor from 2008 to 2009, Corporal of Community Policing and Tactical Unit Team Leader from 2006 to 2008, Criminal Investigation Investigator from 2004 to 2006, Tactical Unit Squad Leader from 2002 to 2006, Tactical Unit Member from 1997 to 2002, Field Training Officer from 1996 to 2004, and Patrol Officer from 1994 to 2000. Jeremy is a certified emotional intelligence practitioner and a certified intercultural competency trainer. It is with great enthusiasm that I respectfully recommend to the Mayor and City Council the appointment of Interim Chief of Police Jeremy Jensen as the new City of Dubuque Chief of Police.
Thank you, Mike. We'll open it up for discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Jones.
we're lucky that this particular interview happened in Dubuque, Iowa for this position, because had the same four candidates that were all excellent from everything we read been interviewed for any other city, they still would have selected this one, and he'd be going somewhere else. So I'm proud to have known you all these years. I've watched your whole career. You're the right guy at the right time. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
I have to tell you that I've seen Interim Chief Jensen at so many community events, and he's always got a smile on his face, and he's always helping people. And he's, so competent, so helpful. He obviously loves his community and its citizens, and I am going to enthusiastically support this tonight, too. Congrats.
Thank you, Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Farber.
So I want to congratulate Jeremy as well, and I think, as I had mentioned to Mike, that this is really an outstanding feel-good story that we can promote one from within, and how fortunate we are that our strength in the force and the talent and the leadership within is there, and that hopefully there will be more mentoring for someone else to follow in your footsteps at some point. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and again, congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. Any other discussion? Well, Interim Chief Jensen, it sounds like, from what I'm hearing at the table at least, we're soon going to be calling you Chief Jensen. So thank you very much for stepping up and stepping into this role. You have a long and decorated career, and we're very excited to be able to see you move into this role tonight. So thank you. Yeah. With that, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Farber,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Resnick,
Aye.
Roussel,
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0. Congratulations, Chief Jensen. All right, we'll take a moment here and then we'll move on to our first item. We have a minute for any photo ops you need. I see head shaking no, that's just fine, yes. Thank you very much. Yes, it's okay. All right. Would you like, is there anything you'd like to say? I should invite you to do that if you'd like.
I will say one thing. I am Jeremy Jensen, Chief of Police. First time I get to say that. Thank you. I am honored, and we have a great police department. I'm looking forward to we can make it even greater. So, thank you again.
Thank you, Chief Jensen. All right. All right, Adrian.
So we'll move on to public hearings, and our first presentation is the City Attorney's Office.
Okay. Krenna, come on up.
Good evening. Krenna Brumwell, City Attorney's Office. I am going to kick off budget season tonight, and hopefully I will not use my auctioneer's voice. I have my pen to remind me to talk slowly, but I will try and be as quick and brief as possible because I know you have a long evening ahead of you. So, to begin this evening, I will just put up the mission statement for our office, which, as you would guess, is that we provide legal counsel to this body as well as to the city manager and other department managers and staff throughout the organization related to accomplishing their official duties as we would expect them to within the bounds of the law and giving us best of advice as we can based on the circumstances and questions that we are presented with. Our office currently is budgeted for 5.62 full-time equivalents, including myself, Barry as senior counsel. Shantae Weston is our civil rights specialist. Jenny Messerich is our paralegal, and Joni Meetinger just celebrated her one-year anniversary with us as legal administrative assistant. You will see that we still have our assistant city attorney position vacant, but I can tell you in the near future, a matter of days, you will have something appearing on an agenda related to this, as we have an accepted offer and we've just been working our way through the process to bring that to you. So hopefully we have a very full complement in our office of staff within the very short term. Related to property tax support and our budget, approximately $506,000 comes from property tax support. And related to the average homeowner's property tax cost to fund the city attorney's office, it is $7.53 based on the average home value that is provided there. Related to the city attorney's office's efforts related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, besides having the civil rights specialist contained within our office and Shantae and I participating in providing training to staff at different times and on an ongoing basis, we anticipate that the new assistant city attorney will also be heavily involved in training and compliance efforts. And in addition to that, we have some funds contained within our budget related to the fine and fee initiative that has been ongoing for a few years. And we are looking at doing a pilot program with those funds that will provide, hopefully, some diversion efforts, some early intervention efforts, and some prevention efforts. So we're looking at a program that would do some notifications, hopefully to prevent people from getting to the point where they have to come see me or one of my staff members in court. So the idea is if we can avoid that, we can avoid the imposition of some of the fines and fees and costs associated with navigating the court system at the district court level. An additional thing that we have done is in your legislative priorities, we've provided some draft changes to the state code and some of the court rules related to fine and fee reform as well. Here is a list of some highlights of our ongoing projects and future initiatives. One thing that you don't see in our presentation anywhere, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention, COVID still kept us pretty busy in 2021. I spent a lot of time going through OSHA standards and federal regulations and things of that nature. I think I've graduated to my second banker's box of documentation related to COVID, and I'm hoping that that is now kind of dwindling and we can focus on more things like this. So housing tax increment financing agreements, working on nuisance standards and forms and process and some sequencing for our staff to create training and consistency of process opportunities. Barry handles our property tax appeals, of which you can see there were 5 in 2021, and then 2 that were resolved and 1 that were pending. We obviously work with utility extensions and pre-annexation agreements. We provide support to all of the citizen volunteer boards and commissions. And then you'll see there's another reference to the equitable fine and fee reform mentioned as well. Some major projects and development agreements over the course of the last year. You can see the Hendricks Feed and Seed, the River City Group or the Weber project, the DRA lease amendment, the fiber agreements that help us do what we can to bring connectivity to the community and all parts of it. We had some certiorari actions. We obviously had to, in short order, work with Leisure Services to get Mystique Ice Arena, kind of under our management and everything that went with that. Some modifications to the school resource officer agreement, and you can see then some development agreements, many of which were related to housing this year, which is nice. We process the claims for the city. So when someone files a claim against the city, whether that is because we inadvertently, maybe had a city vehicle hit another car, or have some sort of, damage claim of some sort, those are processed by our office, and we send those to ICAP, who then investigates and works with us to resolve those claims. Within our budget, you'll see that there's always an estimate in there for what we may experience from a claims liability standpoint. That's based on an average over a period of years. So you'll see that we have an actual for 20, an actual for 21, and our best guess based on that average for 22. And sometimes we are under that, sometimes we're over that, but we do what we can to try and ballpark that for you. Related to court, we handle both criminal and civil citations under the city code. There are some examples of criminal violations that are prosecuted through our office, as well as some of the civil violations that are handled within our office. Just for example purposes, I've got to check my notes here, just one second. Over the course of the last year, just two departments that I picked to highlight. We handled 138 animal control citations in 2021 and 159 citations on behalf of the housing department. So for the animal control department, that could be a licensing violation, but it could also be related to animals running loose or bites or failing to confine an animal. Related to the housing department, that could be anything from not having your rental license to code compliance issues or non-compliance with the housing code. And those figures right there, those don't include the matters that we've worked with those departments on that don't make it to court, of which there are many. In the short term, due to being down a staff member, we have done a short-term temporary contract with the county attorney's office to handle some of the criminal court appearance for us that coincide with the type of work that that office does already, which seems to be a good partnership to get us through this time frame while we have been down. Related to the human rights cases that are handled within our office, on the left you'll see the Dubuque Human Rights Commission cases. Those are cases that are processed under our ordinance by individuals against entities within the community. Businesses, things of that nature. There were 8 cases closed within the last year that included investigation and interviews. 3 of those were administrative closures, 1 went to mediation, 1 there was a determination that we didn't have jurisdiction over the matter, and there were 3 referrals to the state agency, the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. On the right side, where you see the Iowa Civil Rights Commission listed, that is defense of cases against the organization that is handled by our office. And you'll see that there was 1 with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and 5 with the Civil Rights Commission. Petition properties is something that I have worked on for a number of years, and this pie chart kind of continues to grow and evolve over the years, where you see that we have been awarded 23 properties. We have 7 that are pending. We have 6 where a petition is filed and it is some point in the process, and we have 3 that we are currently evaluating. And those range across the board from properties where there's been a fire or a property where someone has just vanished. In some cases, it's where people have died and they don't have any heirs or family members to take it over. So we never quite know what we're going to get when those are referred to us, but we just work on them one by one in the unique circumstance they present. Related to continuing legal education, that's something that is very valuable and important to us in our office for all of the positions to make sure that we're staying on top of issues and changes in the laws related to municipal government liability, things of that nature. You'll see that in 20 and 21, our hours were lower than normal. That's because, of course, so many things were not happening because of COVID. The estimate that you see for fiscal year, or the next year, that's more in line with what you see during normal times for our office. We participate in the Iowa Municipal Attorneys Association and the continuing education they offer, as well as the International Municipal Lawyers Association opportunities that are presented for continuing education. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
All right. Well, we'll go first to any sort of public input that we might have. So, Adrian, you can go ahead with that.
At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss this public hearing may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for this public hearing. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for this public hearing. Please begin your input by stating your name and address.
Thank you, Adrian. Do we have any public input here in chambers? I don't see any coming forward. Corey, do we have anything virtually?
No virtual.
All right. Anything email?
No emails received.
All right. I'll bring it back to the table then for any discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Resnick.
yes, before we begin this process, could you please clarify the process that we go through for suggesting altering spending levels? Either some people would maybe spend less on the certain, or asked to spend less, or asked to spend more. And last year, as you recall, that we had a process, and if you wouldn't mind reviewing that for us, I think it had something to do with identifying a certain cost, asking if there was some type of consensus about putting it aside to bring up later, or I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work this year, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Resnick. What I'd actually like to do is just leave that open for discussion first to see if there's anything that we would like to, any input that you have about this. I recall the same as Mr. Resnick. I think if we have a certain item that we would like to hold for separate discussion about this, we can do that. And then we need to make sure that we have a full understanding of what that is going to cost. And that would be probably sending it back in the direction of the city manager then to be able to understand that more fully. And Mike, maybe I could throw this in your direction too, and I guess probably Krenna, probably going to be asking you too. This process has been kind of different the last 2 years than it was before that because of just all the things that were going on and the fact that we were meeting virtually as well. What would you say would be the most effective and efficient way for us to deal with any requests like that if we as a council have those?
Go for it.
A way that has seemed to work in the past is if a council member wants something held for discussion, either increase or decrease, to be contemplated, is my recollection was customary that the council member would express that, and the mayor would ask, is there anybody else who would like to hold this for discussion for a later point in time? And if at least a majority of the council agreed, then it was held for the final public hearing night. And then between then and the public hearing, staff could collect information, what would be the impact on property taxes if it was either one, increase or decrease, or a fee if it happened to be in one of the utilities. So that's a way that seems to have been effective in the past. And then if there was not a majority of council members that were interested in holding it for a later discussion, my recollection is it wasn't held for a discussion. I don't know if some other council members want to that's my recollection of kind of how it worked.
Sounds accurate to me. A question I have for you, Krenna, as far as the technicality of it, do we need an official motion to be able to do something like that if we're, just holding things for separate discussion? Or is it more of just kind of a straw poll kind of vote amongst us as council members?
Straw poll. You
Okay.
don't need anything formal. That would
Okay.
bog down the process.
Okay, all right. Does that sound good to everyone as a process? And I appreciate you asking that, Mr. Resnick. That's very helpful to have that reminder.
Thank you, and thank you for the response. And as far as this budget, which is they purport to spend less this next year than this year, I appreciate that very much. I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Ms. Farber.
So, Krenna, first off, I wanted to thank you and your colleagues for just the yeoman's work that you have done when you negotiated purchase agreements, franchise agreements, development agreements, and worked on the negotiation side with Mike to really help formulate and bring new business and expanded housing here in Dubuque. So thank you very much for that work. I just have a quick question, and it's regarding the human rights cases that are noted in the measurements, in the performance measurements. Is it possible to just give us the scope generically of these types of cases? And I know you can't go specifically, but just so that we have an understanding of what's fermenting or what's, rising at
There
this point.
are, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No worries.
There are some pieces of information that we can share from a numerical standpoint, and I apologize, I don't have that information
that's okay.
with me tonight. But for example, they're going to be under the city code section, so they're going to be in the area of employment or public accommodation, credit, housing, things of that nature. So we do have the ability to run reports and to track within the Human Rights Department and the Office of Equity itself, how many intakes or calls they get about certain things. And then we also have the ability to provide the numbers based on the actual complaints that are filed, because an intake or a call doesn't always necessarily
Sure.
equate to the filing of a formal complaint.
Sure.
So, but we do have the ability to provide that information and can make that available.
Okay, I mean, I'm just in the event that there's more of one certain type that we need to further investigate or further develop or have training for city staff. I think that's important.
And we also look at it as a way to drive community education as well, because when it involves outside entities and employers and things of that nature, we kind of look at it as a way to track trends. And so we look at it as an opportunity to reach out, provide resources, and try and do some education and prevention.
Right, and I think it's good just for the healthy economy and the culture.
Yep.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. Any others? Well, as usual, the brevity of your presentation belies just how much you do in your office. So thank you very much. I know I speak for everyone in the City of Dubuque government when I say thank you for the work that you all do. We very much appreciate it. And yeah, that would conclude the part for you there, Krenna. So I think you get to actually, you don't need to stay for the whole time this time, do you? Yeah. Lucky you.
That trend, and I continue it.
Yes. I'm actually sorry, because we're going to have so much fun without you. So, all right, moving on then. So I think we can just go ahead and what I'm planning to do, just so everybody knows, is I think we'll just move on to the next presentation when that time comes. But I'm also going to try to read the room. So if I find that we're all glazing over just a little bit in the middle of the evening, we might take just a short, very brief break to be able to refresh ourselves and then come back to it. So, because I know sometimes these budget hearings do get pretty long, so that's okay. So, City Clerk's Office.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Adrienne Breitfelder, City Clerk, and I will be taking you through the City Clerk's Office presentation tonight. So starting off with our mission statement, which is displayed on this slide here, our key responsibility is to provide information and support to the mayor and city council, city staff, and the public related to city council records, boards and commissions applications, and various licenses and permits. The City Clerk's Office supports the city's initiative of creating an equitable community of choice through recruitment efforts that achieve diverse representation on city boards and commissions. Additionally, we provide administrative support for proclamations that celebrate diverse organizations and initiatives within the community. This slide shows the current makeup of the City Clerk's Office. Myself as City Clerk, Trish Gleason as Assistant City Clerk, and Pamela McCarron as Permit Clerk. We've also had an intern from Loras College, Thomas Stridar, start with us a few weeks ago for his spring semester. He is a double major in history and political science and is helping the City Clerk's Office with digitizing many of our historical documents so that way they are accessible to the public. For our fiscal year 2022 highlights, first we have the Liquor License Ordinance Amendment. In August of 2021, the City Council adopted an ordinance that granted the City Clerk's Office provisional approval for new and renewal liquor licenses if all application requirements were met. This ordinance has reduced procedural delays in the application process, therefore minimizing negative impacts in businesses and special events operating. For boards and commissions recognition, we were able to find a meaningful way to recognize our boards and commissioner volunteers during the pandemic. Our office typically hosts a recognition picnic to thank our boards and commissions volunteers, but due to the pandemic, we were unable to host that picnic for the past 2 years. our office distributed a Dubuque-themed recognition item for all volunteers this past fall and had the mayor issue a proclamation recognizing October 18th, 2021 as Boards and Commissions Recognition Day. And then our final highlight relates to the Dubuque Sister City Committee. The committee is overseen by Travel Dubuque, and the city clerk serves as the city staff representative to this committee. The committee hosted a photo exhibit from October 14th through 16th in 2021, which was a huge success, and the city clerk's office played an important part in coordinating that event. In terms of our future initiatives, we are working on updating and digitizing our Boards and Commissions guidebook that we present to all new boards and commissioners when they first join, so that way they have a good understanding of city form of government, the layout of the city organization, and our various expectations. We're also working on an online orientation for new boards and commission members, again, as a way to better integrate them into the city organization and understanding of our expectations. And then we're also hoping to finish a project that was initiated over 2 years ago to make all city council proceedings from the 1800s searchable online by all city departments and residents. So this slide shows our fiscal year 2023 requested property tax support. I'll just bring to your attention that city council election expenses are biennial, and while a city council regular election is not scheduled for fiscal year 2023, we have budgeted for a potential referendum on Five Flags in fiscal year 2023. As we reflect on the community's recovery from the pandemic, I thought it would be valuable to share the number of special event permits issued by the city clerk's office for the past few calendar years. The city clerk's office oversees special event permits, which include festivals, block parties, walks or runs, parades, marches, and weddings at the Alliant Amphitheater. As you can see, we had a significant decrease in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but have seen a promising increase in 2021 in terms of number of events. The performance measures I will cover focus on boards and commissions recruitment. Our first performance measure is to have board and commission openings at 11% or less. This number constantly changes based on various changes to commissions, people having to resign for various reasons. Oftentimes it's for various commitments in their lives or having to move away to pursue a different opportunity. So we consistently partner with many departments to try to promote boards and commissions recruitment. And a very recent example is that we've worked with the Public Information Office to include a brochure with the upcoming utility bill that promotes all current boards and commissions openings. So anyone who receives a utility bill in the mail in the next few weeks should be getting that information. This next slide displays the current makeup of board and commission members by gender and race. We continue to explore creative ways to increase diversity in our boards and commissions representation, and recently we presented on boards and commissions to the city's civic leaders cohort, which resulted in multiple graduates applying for boards and commissions service. And then this final slide shows our proposed organization in fiscal year 2023 based on our improvement package request for a full-time secretary. The goal of this secretary would be to serve as the main point of contact for all public inquiries, both over the phone and in person in City Hall. The city clerk's office is really seen as the main go-to resource, both for City Hall as well as any phone calls that residents make. When they often don't know which department they need to get in touch with, they will contact the phone number promoted on the city's website, which is 589-4100. That phone number contacts the city clerk's office directly, and so it's our responsibility to refer those residents to the appropriate department. Additionally, we envision that this secretary would complete a variety of administrative tasks, such as sorting and delivering all mail delivered to City Hall, scanning and filing documents, and processing claims and certain licenses. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor?
thank you, Adrian. Yeah.
Before
yeah,
we
Mike.
seek public input, I
Yes.
just had a couple comments.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So related to the improvement packages, there were 3 improvement package requests, and I'm recommending the third one, which is the additional position. But I do want to offer some clarification on the first 2, and I don't even know if I've had this discussion with Adrian yet, so I apologize for that, Adrian. But in the first one, it talks about trying to create an atmosphere where it is easier to recruit boards and commission members. And it talks about things, and this is one that I wasn't recommending, about providing childcare during meetings and transportation to and from meetings. And then it also talks about language interpretation during meetings. So we already have the financial capacity to offer the language interpretation during meetings, so I would encourage Adrian to advertise that feature when she advertises positions. But really what I'm not recommending here is the childcare during meetings and transportation to and from meetings. So I just wanted to offer that clarification on that one. And then in number 2 of 3, Adrian had asked to create an atmosphere similar to the utility billing, which we did a few years ago, where we created plexiglass windows and things like that. And while I'm not recommending the allocation of these dollars, that doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to try and do this. So for instance, we have a budget to remodel the old building services space for human resources. So my intent would be to design this at the same time, bid it at the same time, and then see, hopefully it would be affordable within our capacity to afford that project and do them basically simultaneously. If that didn't work out, I would be looking for money somewhere else, or I'd be coming back to you, something like that. But I agree that this is a good use of our resources, and I'm just looking at accomplishing it in a little bit different way.
Great. Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Mike. I appreciate that. Okay. Adrian, did you want to open up for public input?
I brought my speech down
I
here.
figured you probably did.
At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss this public hearing may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for this public hearing. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for this public hearing. Please begin your input by stating your name and address.
Thank you, Adrian. Do we have any public input, either here or virtually?
There's no virtual input.
Okay.
And no
All right.
emails received.
No emails received. All right. Then I'll bring it back to the table for discussion.
Yeah,
Ms.
Mr.
Farber.
Mayor and Mike, I was, you must have been reading my mind, or I was reading yours, because I was going to ask for the second improvement package to be moved aside for further discussion. And I am in total agreement that because finance and utility have that safety and security, that this team should be afforded that same benefit. And it is a small amount of funding, and I agree that I'm sure you can be creative to find funding for it. So do we officially have to put this to be held for discussion, or no?
Well, technically, you can ask to do that. So if you'd want to further discuss that, we can. What I might throw out there is that based on what Mike has presented to us, that option is coming down the line, but it's really up to you. If you want to do that.
Can I just open that conversation for Mike to get some guidance here, since it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
what would you recommend, Mike?
Yeah, in this case, I don't see the necessity to hold it because, like I said, we've already got I believe we have the capacity to do this within what we're already trying to accomplish in that part of the hallway of City Hall. So, I'm fairly confident that it's going to happen within our existing capacity, so I don't think we need to budget any more money.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. Any others?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Resnick. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Spike. I'll do Resnick first.
All right, thank you. Quickly, first of all, I remember so many times during when I talk to citizens, they say, I don't know who to call, don't know what to do. I have this question, and there's so many departments, and in the past 10 years or so, we've done a lot to help citizens know what, we have it electronic, and we have this website that's updated, and, we've done so much. Mr. Gale has done so much to help citizens, and I think this is another step forward. My question to you is, are we going to hang some kind of sign there or something in City Hall, just general questions for people when they walk in and they don't know where things are or what to do? Because you mentioned they do stop by the clerk's office just because you're one of the first ones in. But are we're going to let citizens know here's a good place for information?
Sure. I know at the entrance to City Hall right now, there's the display window at the front entrance, and that does list what departments are in City Hall and what floor each one are on. I do know that for a lot of residents, though, it might not be intuitive to look there, or it might not be intuitive where specifically the utility billing department is located or where certain departments upstairs are located. So I think even though we always look for creative ways to promote to residents where each department is, I think for a lot of people, they really do come to City Hall looking to speak to someone and find that it's more convenient for them to have that 2-second face-to-face interaction to find out where certain departments are. And that's where I think there's a lot of value in having this position.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sprank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to echo a lot of what Mr. Resnick was saying, and I understand, even when I would go into City Hall, I'd be like, who do I talk to, where do I go? And it's just nice to have basically a switchboard operator or an information desk. So I'm fully in support of this idea of this secretary position or information, whatever we want to call it, but it's just nice to have a point of person, like a person you can just talk to. I got a question. I need to know where my utility bill goes, and I think I'm all for it. So thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Mr. Sprank. Anybody else? All right. You know, I don't have any questions. I absolutely support this as well. You know, one of the things I'm thankful for, though, is you pointing out all the different aspects of what the city clerk does. You know, we see you at every single meeting, obviously, right, as the city clerk. I mean, you kind of run the show here and keep us all together. But there is so much that goes on behind the scenes, and I appreciate you pointing that out because I think that's really important for everybody to know and to understand just the breadth of the work that you're doing in your office. So I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to add this position, and I look forward to seeing even what you'll be able to do with that. So. Thank you very much, Adrian.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, then we will move on. We'll take a moment here to do a switch over. Looks like next up is our Public Information Office. So Randy, when you're ready, you can take it away.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Randy Gale, Public Information Officer. And I want to start out with our mission statement tonight, is to increase awareness and understanding of city services and programs and facilitate increased transparency of Dubuque City government to promote resident and stakeholder trust and satisfaction. So that's a general view of what we try to do. Here's our org chart. It's kind of broken down, as you can see, by color a little bit. We have 5 people, 4.75 people in public information. That includes what used to be cable TV and media services is now just part of public information. And then GIS, 2 people in GIS. You'll be hearing from Nikki Rosemeyer after me. She'll talk more about GIS. And here's the Public Information and Geographic Information Systems team after winning the team division of our costume contest last Halloween for city staff when we dressed as Skittles. I must say that until that day, I never knew just how many people dislike green Skittles, but now I know that. But I showed this picture because I want to thank my team for all that they do and for their help with this presentation tonight as well. And here's the requested property tax support for the Public Information Office. And generally speaking, these are the major highlights of FY22. I'll go into a little more detail with some of these. But the COVID vaccinations campaign that began about a year ago took a lot of our time. We had the Fall City Focus magazine that updated the community on the Imagine Dubuque comprehensive plan. We hired a multimedia specialist, Felicia Carner, after a 14-month vacancy due to the hiring freeze, so that was a happy day for us. The B Branch Railroad Culverts project became fully operational last fall, so there's a lot of information going out in the lead up to that and then celebrating that the day that became operational. Here in the City Council chambers, we had upgrades for virtual meetings to improve that meeting experience for virtual participants. And then we also redesigned our City News newsletter and the City Services Guide in the last year. The Public Information Office contributes to many city efforts to create an equitable community of choice by providing outreach and engagement support to all city departments and divisions in their efforts toward this goal, as well as providing GIS data and maps that enable data-driven decision-making throughout the organization. More specifically, within our department, we try to produce messaging that reaches residents and stakeholders where they are by using all the communication tools available to us and try to make that messaging understandable, which includes closed captioning of videos and translation of critical information. We also prioritize efforts that support and assist low-income residents and make them aware of city services and programs. I want to talk for a little bit about pandemic response support. As I mentioned, the Vaccination Opportunities Campaign and Outreach. I'll talk a little bit more about that in another slide. Support and recovery. Again, when we look at the past year, we were keeping residents that were impacted by the pandemic informed of resources and programs available to them. The daily/weekly updates. The county COVID-19 updates were daily until April of 2021. Then we started issuing those updates on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. And then in August of 2021, we transitioned to updates being issued weekly on Wednesdays, and we're still doing that as you hopefully receive our update today. Media facilitation throughout the pandemic for the county incident management team. We've produced 30 video updates from March of 2020 to March of 2021. Those video updates featured Mary Rose Corrigan's. They started off live and daily. In July of 2020, we went to pre-recorded messages, and then on a more consistent Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. And then in April of 2021, we transitioned to recording video updates weekly until August of 2021 when we began producing them on an as-needed basis, kind of almost every week now, though. It kind of depends what's going on. And a big shout out to Mary Rose Corrigan. You know, she comes up with the messages themselves. We just produce them and add in some graphics. And digital content and stats on the cityofdubuque.org/COVID-19 page, as well as the Sleeves Up page and the COVID testing page. And the digital content that we put on the city's pages, we then notify the county and they update the county pages with that same information. And just a snapshot of website traffic. These are unique page views. The green column there is March of 20 to March of 2021. The red columns are March of 21 to 2022. I just wanted to provide those to give you an idea of the volume of traffic. That these are just city pages that they attracted, and kind of see how it has changed as the pandemic changed. When the vaccines became available, we developed a comprehensive county-wide campaign to promote the safety and availability of COVID vaccines to the different groups as they became eligible. We utilized direct mail, social media, print and radio, posters, billboards, and really every channel available to us. We promoted the live Q&A hosted by the Human Rights Department. And then as the Omicron variant spiked locally, we promoted the availability of tests and had another campaign educating residents on guidelines for quarantine and isolation. And I sincerely hope that our presentation next year to you does not have to conclude so much on COVID. For several months after vaccines first became available, I'm proud to say Dubuque County was among the top counties in the state for percentage of residents vaccinated. And in fact, we were at number 2 for quite a while. Only Johnson County was higher than Dubuque County. In this screen, you can see there's, there are 10 different billboard designs that we had throughout the county, print ads in all the county print publications, and we did social media advertising as well. My next few slides will feature just a few examples of the many non-COVID projects that the PIO team worked on to promote city services and programs, and as I said, to facilitate transparency in city government. We get to work with all departments and divisions on a wide variety of projects, so I'm not going to point out these individual publications on here, but I hope they show the breadth of the type of work that we do and the departments that we get to assist. Sometimes it's behind the scenes prep work, like creating online forms or surveys that will be used to gather information from residents and stakeholders. And sometimes it's the very public side of announcing new programs and initiatives and holding special events to connect with the residents. While this slide features more publications for residents, sometimes our efforts are also focused on internal communications to update city employees on issues critical to them, something that has been very important during the pandemic. One example of a new program we worked on with Information Services, Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, and others was the emergency broadband benefit to promote discounted internet service to income-qualified residents. We launched a city web page in August of '21 to help eligible residents find and enroll in discounted or free internet service through the emergency broadband benefit. So this website, our site actually went to another site, but it helped people see if they had a mobile or home internet provider, they could see a summary of the discount being offered by their current provider. And for those without service, they can enter their home address to see if a list of all EBB discounts in the area. So the PIO supported this EBB, sorry, too many acronyms here, but we supported the EBB effort through website development, press release, posters provided to community partners, and on Jewel buses, info on the B branch monitors, info on city publications, social media, et cetera. And just to give you an idea of the website traffic through January of this year, of 2022, we had over 1,200 visitors and close to, let's see, clicks to different EBB carrier sites were 285. So that's a good number to show us how many people actually click through to those EBB providers or carrier sites. So that was a conversion rate of about 33%, which, as you know, is pretty high for something like this. It's important to note that when reviewing the month-to-month data, the results reinforce the benefit that marketing and outreach efforts that we do. For example, the December campaign to promote signing up for EBB before the launch of the American Connectivity Program, because the EBB program ended on December 30th, and it was replaced by the new Affordable Connectivity Program, ACP, which isn't quite as big of a discount, but it's still a discount, so we've switched everything over to the ACP now. But that's just one example of a project where it's more than just what you see. We continue to connect with more and more residents and stakeholders through social media with strategic campaigns based on input from departments and divisions when they need assistance reminding residents of how they can benefit from services and programs. Additionally, we occasionally use social media campaigns to let residents know how they can help city staff help them. We're also trying to feature more city employees in our posts, like the series of Snow Fighter employees we featured with our winter weather reminders over the last couple months. In addition to managing the city's main social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, Instagram, and YouTube, we also provide assistance to some of the departments that have their own presence on social media. B-Branch Education and Outreach. Communication Specialist Kristen Hill continues to work with a variety of community partners to connect residents, especially our young people, with the B-Branch Creek watershed and to educate them on the importance of water quality and how to be responsible stewards of our environment, especially watershed residents. As you can see on this slide, there were a wide variety of activities. Some coincided with Earth Day, with the library story walk at the B-Branch, Catfish Creek cleanup. Jefferson Middle School took a field trip to the B-Branch, and there was a Tri-Basin summer cleanup series. So Kristen did a lot of outreach related to those, and it's always great to have people down at the Greenway or elsewhere in the watersheds we have. Some more examples, we had a nice variety of activities for Pollinator Week last year. St. Mark's Youth Enrichment participants come down to the B-Branch occasionally. The MFC STEP program came down. We had a trash pickup for pollinators at the lower B-Branch, and a storm drain mural project that was cool as well. And there, just so you know, there's not supposed to be audio, this video while I'm talking here. From March 2021 to now, Media Services has produced 143 programs for City Channel Dubuque, totaling more than 108 hours of content. During this time, Media Services supported the production of live events and has completed the full transition to hybrid council meetings, bettering the experience for virtual attendees. In efforts to enhance the quality of video productions, the Cable Commission supported $30,000 to be allocated from the PEG Fund to purchase upgraded equipment, and that has all arrived now. We're beginning to integrate that into our system. Media Services has also expanded its role to generating more photography, featuring city services, events, and more. These photos have supported the communication and social media efforts of the entire PIO team and have been shared by organizations like Travel Dubuque. So this positive visual communication helps support messaging that Dubuque is a community of choice. I'll just let this video roll for a few seconds longer to see the variety of events that they've covered in the last year, many of which you attended as well. Drone footage continues to be a great tool for us in a variety of different things. And so we're hoping to have a second. Felicia hopes to get licensed as a drone pilot in this coming year. A lot of new animations were created since Felicia has joined our team as well. Okay. Okay. Future initiatives. We're planning a spring edition of the City Focus magazine to come out later this spring. We're exploring YouTube streaming options for City Channel Dubuque. Right now it streams live on our website 24/7. Live meetings like yours, like this event tonight, are streaming on Facebook as well. So we're looking into how we might integrate some more YouTube streaming. We currently upload programs to YouTube, but we'd like to have a streaming option there as well. We're exploring a lot of new website analytics, which are helping us be a lot more strategic with our Facebook posts and other social media posts, where we can track how people go to a website. You know, when we're putting that post out there to get their attention about something, how many are actually clicking through, where they're coming from when they go for that deeper dive of information. And we're also working on plans for another B Branch Railroad project celebration once everything is finalized down there and the pedestrian tunnel is open, and possibly coinciding with another Pollinator Week series of events. 3 recommended improvement projects for the Public Information Office: converting our Kristen Hill, the communication specialist position, changing the funding for that position from 75% stormwater, 25% general fund to a 50-50 split for more flexibility of her time. We requested that our printing budget be increased by a little over $10,000, $10,518, so that the new City News newsletter can be printed in color. As probably all of you realize, it's very rare that you get a mailing at home now that is not printed in color, and it's a much more readable publication, we feel. And then increasing our dues and memberships budget by $445 to allow 2 more staff members to be members of the City and County Communicators and Marketing Association, or 3CMA. Just a real quick review of some performance measures. Here you see the number of Facebook followers. We continue to grow significantly there. 91% increase in the last 3 years, in fact. Twitter, not as significant of an increase, but still growing. And website, again, not a lot of growth, but just showing you the volume of traffic that we get. These are website unique page views per year, nearly 200,000. And then my last slide that I like to include every year, just to show you where people are going when they do come to our website. Our website continues to be very transaction-based. When people come to our site, they have something in mind. They want to pay a utility bill, you know, those kind of things. But as you can see, last year, COVID was up there. The top 3 of the top 4 pages were COVID pages. It makes us feel good knowing that all the information we put out there was accessed by a lot of residents. And then the top search terms used. And although these are bulleted, I should have had them numbered because they're ranked from top to bottom in terms of frequency. So jobs was the most frequently used search term on our website. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nikki, and Nikki and I will be available to answer any questions you have after she's done. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nikki Rosemeyer, and I am the GIS coordinator for the city. So tonight I'll be going through some of the cool things we're doing in our office as well. All right. So we have 2.25 full-time equivalent positions, myself and a GIS application specialist as full-time employees. And we also have a vacant GIS intern position that I typically fill in the summertime. Really works out really well with getting a lot of good projects done. I have been here for 16 very fast years, and Caleb has been here for a little more than 2. He'll be here for 3 this summer. So yeah, lots of continuity in our office here. Okay, so instead of talking about the quantity and the types of maps that I typically talk about every year when I come up here and talk to you, I want to talk more about the qualitative and analytic aspects of the maps in the GIS, basically the way GIS is being used for data analytics and qualitative information. So Obviously, maps do a great job of showing what is where, and it can also start to give us a little bit of analytic perspective on things. Like, where are we funding projects? Are we funding projects in low-income areas? Are we, are we making sure that our programs that we're offering, are they available to all the residents? Are we making things available in parts of town where maybe people don't have as much access to transportation as they maybe would in other parts of town? So, yeah, definitely maps can, on their own, be very analytic. But I just want to talk about a couple of different, we do a lot of analytics with it, but I just want to kind of talk about a couple of different projects tonight. So this slide shows some analytics of our ash tree maintenance. So in 2015, we started using GIS to track our maintenance activities of the Parks Division staff related to ash tree treatment. So I created a web app that they use on their iPad or on their computers, and when they go out and they perform activities on the trees, they are capturing that data and it's automatically populating this database. The dashboard that you see on the slide here at the top right, that was created to give the supervisors an overall view of the activities. So I could break things down by type, the total number of trees removed, the total number of activities, and then obviously a map kind of showing where those activities are occurring. So this year I did something a little bit different. Well, I like to visit them about once a year, my applications and stuff like that, and kind of give them a little bit of a freshening up. So what I did this year is I added an additional metric to this dashboard that shows the activities that they are doing over time. And so you can see there's one on the dashboard in the top picture, and on the bottom of the screen there is another one. It's the same data, they're just two different types of graphs. So as I created this, this was very interesting to me because, like I said, I created this application. I update their information every year. I give them basically a new set of features to, go out in the field and say, here are our 2022 activities as opposed to our 2021 activities, that type of thing. So I don't actually sometimes look at the data though, right? I'm just kind of, transactional, getting that information out there. But and also, like I said, just looking at the map, I can tell, the red activities are the removals, the blue activities are tree injections, the purple activities are soil drenching, and the green activities, which are kind of hard to see on there, are private treatment of ash trees. And so, just throwing this simple graph onto that application was, like I said, it was really interesting. It was interesting to me that, obviously I expected to see the removals happen over time, and obviously 2 in 2022 were barely into the year, so kind of ignore that one. But it was really interesting to me to see that the soil drenching activities essentially stopped in 2019. Like I said, I put them on the map every year. I just assume that they're doing them, but they stopped back then. And the same thing happened with the private treatment of the trees. Those essentially stopped in 2016. And so, kind of analyzing this data over time, like looking at the activities that they're doing, and comparing it to the other activities that they're doing as well. So I found this really, really interesting. And another thing, the costs can be applied to these activities, okay? So I don't know the cost of these activities, but looking at this graph here, I'm sure that Leisure Services could tell you, there's this X amount of dollars that's essentially assigned to every time we take down an ash tree, it costs this much money. And so, you could kind of see going through time that over time, maybe that budget went up because obviously they're removing more trees, and maybe the money, from the soil drenching or something goes down, like looking at that. So just kind of a cool analytic, like I said, just kind of happened upon it when I was creating that application. Another type of analysis that we've done is related to economic development activities. I do a lot of economic development activities and maps and applications every year. This year, I created an application that's available to both our Economic Development Department and the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation. It shows a lot of information about our efforts at a very quick glance. So you can see those properties in blue have been developed. Those properties in yellow are available. and those properties in green are considered public open space. So a nice thing about this application too is it's dynamic. Obviously, this picture is not dynamic, but as the user pans that map, that graphic in the top left corner is going to change. You're going to see the percentages of the type of land in different parts of the city change based on where you are, like zoomed in on that map there. Let's see here. So I also have this set up. This one is not a public-facing one, and that's because they can edit things. So, a lot of times I work with the GED staff or the GDC staff or economic development in updating tenants or property owners of these areas. And so, that's important information because if you're going to go out and market that information to, potential businesses coming into town, it might be helpful for them to know if there's a business down the road very close to them that might supply them with something that they're using in their business. And so, having that information is really important. Typically, that map would get updated as it was requested, but now, like I said, it's available to them and they can update it as often as they need to. And then it's available right away in the app and it's updated in my database as well. And I guess, taking this a step further, we haven't combined them yet, but it is something I want to look at. I guess the second half of this is looking at the Dubuque Industrial Center expansion by year. And so, looking at the map, you can see the amount of area that has been developed over the years out there. But then if you look a little bit further into the analytics of it, you can see the actual number of acres that have been developed by year there. And so that's the graph that's on the bottom of the page. And what like I said, we've kind of created a project for it. We haven't tied them together. Is actually taking the amount of money that has been leveraged through our urban renewal area project and also just the private dollars that have been invested in those areas to kind of see how much money has been spent, in making those areas beneficial for everybody. So that's, like I said, another way of looking at analytics for that. All right, so rolling forward, there are a lot of future initiatives. We have a lot of things going on. I feel like every year that there's like a GIS lightning bolt that will just like zap some city decision maker, and we start moving forward in a lot of exciting ways. And I love that. I love hearing people's ideas. They come back from a conference, or they see something on a webinar, and they come to me with their ideas, and I love that. It's so exciting. The American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, is going to be very big. I think there's going to be a lot of GIS tie into that. There are currently a lot of GIS resources that are available to those rescue and recovery activities. I've invited a number of staff to meetings kind of specifically related to their departments, kind of their niche or whatever, and identifying how they can leverage information that we have already and put it towards these applications. I'm excited to say that the Dubuque is one of 2 case studies highlighted on Esri, which is our GIS software provider. They have a page for aligning federal funds with community activities. So it's our community as one case study and Modesto, California as the other. Our story focuses on the work that Information Services Manager Chris Coleman did for making a case for broadband funding in our community. She did a great job of not only gathering the information using a GIS survey, but then also taking all of our information and other information that was available and putting it out there and really showing a need for it. Like I said, the other community is Modesto, California, and their efforts are related to addressing homelessness. So on this site that is accessed by thousands of users across the United States, there are 2 case studies on the entire site. Modesto, who has a population of over 212,000 people, and Dubuque. It's just us, right? I think that's really exciting. We're being noticed for our data analytics using GIS, and as an organization, we need to keep pushing our capabilities. All right, so I don't have any recommended improvement packages this year, but I do have an ongoing capital improvement project, and that is for our aerial photography. We want to get a new flight every 2 years. This year we partnered with Dubuque County. So this spring, Kuchera International, who did our 2020 project, will be capturing the entirety of Dubuque County. We will be funding our portion of the project. We have some slightly different specifications than the county does, just in our area. So we'll, like I said, we're getting they're ordered a slightly different project than they usually would if they were not partnering with us. We don't often get the chance to work with the county on things like this because they typically procure a different product where it's not, the aerial photography isn't as accurate. But it has like oblique imagery, meaning that you would it's kind of a drone-like thing where you can look down on the side of the images and stuff like that. So having this partnership this year, though, is going to save us money, and I'm pretty excited about that. And I've also been pretty excited about watching all the snow melt this week. It always, whenever we have a flight, I get very nervous toward the end of the month, at the end of March, because they want to fly at the end of March, beginning of April. And boy, if that snow's not melted, I'm just, so I'm really happy to see it going. I'm sorry for all the skiers and everybody who enjoy that. I don't. Let's see. So somewhat related to this project is something else I want to talk about that became available to us this year, and that is LiDAR data. And so before I talk about what LiDAR is, I want to say that the project was funded by the USDA, NRCS, FEMA, the USGS, and then state partners as well. So like the DNR, and I think that maybe the Iowa DOT maybe put some money into it as well. And what LiDAR is it's kind of like an aerial project. It's something that we've actually thought about funding through our CIP project. There's a series of airplanes or jets or whatever that fly over the state, and they kind of toss out laser, essentially. So what happens is that laser reflects back into a receiver on the plane, and eventually what it does after collecting the whole area, you've got a point cloud. So you have millions and millions of points basically telling you the elevation of the land that's around you. So like I said, the state had this done, I think, in 2020 for our part of the state. I think there's other parts of the state that are still waiting. But having this data has allowed me to create new 1 and 2 foot contours, as well as a digital elevation model. Our old contour data was from 2011, and so it's over 10 years old. So I was pretty excited to get that. You would think that contours don't tend to change a lot, except for when they do. So if you think about development, development moves a lot of earth, right? So obviously we have huge projects, obviously the Dubuque Industrial Center. There have been new subdivisions that have gone in, and probably last but not least, the Southwest Arterial. That's quite a bit of land movement and quite a bit of change in our topography around the city. A digital elevation model is basically an image of that relief. So, if you were to look at contours on a map, you're just going to see lines, right? And so that can be, for some people, that can be a little bit confusing. What a digital elevation model does is it kind of gives you kind of a hill-shaded visual of the city. And I should have included a picture of it because ours is gorgeous. It's so beautiful. I think, sometimes living here in town that we take our hills and our valleys for granted, but that imagery is beautiful. It's a really great product. I just want to touch really quickly on my performance measures. Each year I know I show addresses and GIS, and that sounds kind of boring, but the address database is very, very important. Not only is it feeding other legacy systems and allowing us to have like mailing lists and things for different projects that are going on in the city, obviously it kind of helps us keep track of the different types of development that are happening. And so you can see the number of residential addresses that I touch every year is pretty high. There's a lot of changes with that. And the reason for that is because I'm working with people who are in the field. So housing, water distribution, animal control, they're feeding me information. So if they find an address that they know is wrong in my database, they get in touch with me right away and they give me the best information. I really appreciate that. This is really good teamwork. And finally, one other performance measure I like to talk about is our ArcGIS Online performance. And so ArcGIS Online is essentially the external face of our GIS. And so all the information that lives in ArcGIS Online, it's a web application. It's all of our data that has been kind of curated for people to use, right? So it's not the raw data that you're getting. You're getting something that's prettier than the raw data. So like a lot of, public-facing maps or internal-facing maps, those dashboards I showed you before, those all live on ArcGIS Online. And so, like I said, a lot of people can access them. And also, it's just a way for giving non-GIS users access to the data, and they can perform their own analysis as well. It also supplies maps for fieldwork, inspections, installations. People are using these on their iPads, and there's a field, it's called Field Maps, that they are consuming data, and there's a lot of different departments who are gathering information that way and feeding our system. You can see on this document here that the dashboards and story maps are a little bit low. I expect that those will increase. Right now, the dashboards and the story maps are kind of, I don't want to say they're an afterthought, but they're not something necessarily that people are asking for. And so, like for example, with that economic development application I showed you before, that's not something they asked for. That was something for me saying, I know I'm getting a lot of these requests from economic development or GDC. What can I do to make their lives easier and not have to drop me an email or have me look something up? Like, they can take it into their own hands. And so, like I said, I think I don't want to say it's an afterthought per se, but I feel like we're going to see a lot more of those things happening over the next few years. And that is the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions for me or Randy, we would love to answer them.
Right. Thank you very much, Nikki and Randy. Adrian, we can go ahead and open for public comment first, please.
At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss this public hearing may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for this public hearing. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for this public hearing. Please begin your input by stating your name and address.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public input in person? How about virtually?
None.
Nothing?
No emails received.
All right, I'll bring it back to the table then for questions and discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Resnick.
Yeah, a couple quick questions. So, Mr. Gale first. I noticed that, so we're going from 75-25 stormwater or taxes, city, the property tax support on our the other communication specialist. And my question to you is, so is there plenty of work to do still on that B branch communication? And do you anticipate eventually going to 25-75? Or since the project is, it's never finished because it's, like water, it keeps moving. But what do you anticipate?
I think it's going to vary from year to year depending upon what other projects and when those projects get funded. As you know, there's storm sewer capacity projects that are in coming years for 17th Street and at least one other street, I think. There's the Green Alley projects that when those get funded, those are going to impact neighborhoods as well. And we need to remember it's not just B Branch, it's anything related to stormwater. So she has been helping with Catfish Creek work as well. And then also some projects within engineering because of her familiarity with a lot of those infrastructure type projects. If she's able to assist with some other projects that have a project budget, she can charge her time to those specific project budgets. So I guess I'm not really answering your question directly, but I think over time, we may want to consider shifting from 50-50 to 75-25, but that's all going to depend on how those B branch projects are funded and if additional stormwater projects are in the pipeline, we'll look at it, take it on a year-by-year basis.
Thank you. And also, we had a boil order in the north end, and I was just wondering if did you help with the GI, that project, that the map that was in the paper? Do you?
I did not actually. Our water distribution department has a GIS specialist, and he took care of it.
Because that was very helpful, and I just love it when, you do such great in-depth work for those the specialists that need that. But I just love it when our general citizens can really benefit from all the great work that happens in GIS.
Yes, me too.
If I could just add to that, anytime we have a boil water advisory, that GIS data is used to not only create a map of the affected area, but we use the GIS data creates a shape file, which then we upload to our emergency phone notification system, and it targets just those addresses within that area. And that's what I use to send out a phone notification to those impacted properties. So it's not just a map or creating a list of the addresses impacted. That's what we use to do those direct contacts as well.
I see. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Resnick.
And Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Ms. Farber.
Yeah, and thank you very much for the GIS support, because that is added value to emergencies as well as our topography. And I hope that I can see that little drone sometime and say hello to it as it's passing by. I think it would be a lot of fun to be online there. But first and foremost, I wanted to give you guys kudos for the very creative and timely publications that have been sent out and created this year to basically promote all the very, very important messages that need to be shared with the community. So I thank you for that. But my question basically goes to the technology behind the printing and the postage and sending out the publications. And you had mentioned that there would be an increase to make sure that we have more color composite, if you will, on the documents themselves. So my question is, based on the fact that we are becoming a little more technology-based and tech-savvy, are we seeing more online users for utilities, as an example, to decrease? Is there any opportunity? Is there a break even? The postage and basically the publication costs are increasing, but are more people using online, for their bill paying, et cetera? And will this at some point lower the cost for us?
It's a really good question, and I think it will. We're not seeing a large decrease yet. For example, our utility bill mailings, that's how we distribute the City News newsletter, with those utility bills.
Sure.
And that number that we print has been right around 21,000 for like the last 4 or 5 years. It's maybe gone down a little closer to 20,000, but it's not the market increase that you might expect. But as we can lower that number, we will. More broadly speaking, while it's great to be able to connect with people digitally and save paper and postage costs, when it comes down to a project where it's a defined geographic area, we're still going to probably rely on a direct mail piece, because that's the only way. We can do some targeting with social media, but not down to a neighborhood or a block, a census tract or anything like that. So we're still going to rely on that occasionally, but there are more and more tools at our disposal. There's geofencing for social media advertising and a lot of those things. But we also still need to, like I said, meet residents where they are. So we still, and I've been saying this for almost the 17 years I've been here, but we still have that continuum of people who still like to get that hard copy in the mail versus those who want to do everything through their smartphone. We still need, that's the challenge of local government. Or any government really, we need to reach that entire continuum of people.
Right, so in parallel, as you talk about that, the composition of the citizenship and the age ranges and those that are more comfortable with advanced technology than others, you had mentioned, I think, when you were talking about the TV access and the cable versus the streaming, are we going to be moving forward on more streaming, more YouTube, less cable? I mean, how does that tie into this?
And the evidence there is kind of anecdotal, because we can't measure how many viewers we have. We can't use Orbitron to measure how many people are watching City Channel Dubuque. We occasionally try to sample that by posting an announcement on the channel saying, hey, if you're watching, let us know what you think. And we don't get much of a response. And anecdotally, we know that more people are cutting the cord, as a lot of us or a lot of people do. So we are trying to cover our bases there as that transition continues, to have those streaming options and to put more kind of on-demand programming out there on the options that we have. But we'll also have to see, as IMON begins offering video in our market as well, we'll see what that does for viewership of our channel as well.
So at some point, you will have some kind of a metric there.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, it's an ongoing challenge, isn't it? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any others? Yeah, Mr. Sprang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Randy, I have to thank you so much for the B Branch communication specialist. That person, that lovely gal that's always came and talked to so many neighborhood meetings, has been invaluable. I can't tell you how many folks have been appreciative of our services when they were trying to get programs done with the B Branch Healthy Homes. I hope we can, I really want to continue funding that program in general in that position. I hope as the Central Street project eventually gets underway, that position could maybe be shifted to be working with the business owners and the property owners, so that way they kind of have somebody they can talk to be like, hey, we're going to be coming down the street soon. And I just see it as a very crucial position that I want to continue funding. So thank you.
Thank you. And that was really the first time that the B Branch project, it was a huge project, obviously, but it's the first time we committed one person to really focusing on that. And it's really opened our eyes internally, and a lot of departments have realized what a valuable asset that is to have for a big project like that. We're just starting one now with the East-West Corridor capacity improvements, and Kristen will be assisting engineering with that outreach as well. So, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
I just have to commend both of you on your ongoing enthusiasm. You've both been doing this a long time, and you both find ways to make it new every day, it seems like, and to reach a little farther and to explore new things. The quality of the media output is just unbelievable. It's outstanding, the print material and everything. The quest for more data and what other stories can I tell when I'm looking at the GIS system is extraordinarily impressive. And I guess I would just want to point out how lucky we are to have professionals like the two of you doing the things that you do.
Thank you. It's not just the two of us, it's everybody in that picture I showed before. We've got a great team, and I'm really excited about what we can do with the people we have in place. Thank you.
I got to do an exciting job for the city, but it was mostly the same, just a different patient you were doing it to every day. And once in a while, something would change a little bit, but the things you guys get to do and reach for it looks like a ton of fun, and you keep it that way.
All right. Any others? Well, then I'll say, it's interesting because when people call us and when I talk to people, just out in the community, and they have some sort of a complaint about city government, I think it's pretty common, right? I mean, we talk a lot about government, and one of the questions is, why do you do it this way? What are you doing? What are you thinking? And the questions are honest and they're sincere. But what you do is you tell that story. You tell our story of what we do and why we do it. And you do it so professionally. And you do it in a way that is, it impresses me every day, because I look at other businesses. You look at, corporations, large national corporations, to see how they do it. And you do it as well as they're doing it. And I can't give you enough credit for that. But as you do it, you also prove, as Nikki was pointing out, why we make the decisions we do. They're data-driven decisions based on some pretty specific, very technical things that you are an expert in. So I really appreciate all the work that you do, and especially this past 2 years. I don't think anybody has a real idea except your department about just how much time you had to spend on all that. So thank you. And you're keeping up with the technological changes too. These questions of, why are we doing things this way? What's changing and how are we doing that? You're paying close attention to it. And every year you come and tell us kind of where we're heading and what the future looks like. So thank you very much for the work that you do.
Thank you for the support you give us to do the things we do.
Thank you. All right. We will move on to our next item. How's everybody doing? Good? You good and caffeinated? Yeah? All right. Excellent. Shelley, I think you are up next for our human resources report, so we'll take a minute here to switch over.
No, I didn't do that. That must you must have done. Had to be.
I'll open the most recent one.
No. Do the one from this morning.
Okay.
Somebody's messing with my stuff.
One from 8:55.
Yeah.
To offer a little commentary while we wait. I know we all joke about budget season and just how it's, hey, budget season, because we all know we're going to be here for 7-8 nights all together. But I have to say how enjoyable it is to hear all the different work that everybody does. I mean, there's so much that goes on that I don't think even we realize, even all the time that we spend with it. And it's great to be able to get that perspective and
if that works.
hear about all the great things that are happening.
That's good.
I did not know that desk did that.
I didn't either. And
Learning something new every day.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
You made it go up and down.
All right, Shelley, we're ready when you are.
All right. Well, good evening. I'm Shelley Stickford. I'm the Director of Human Resources. Thank you, Mayor and council members, for letting me do a presentation today regarding the Human Resources budget. If I can remember there we go. So we are one of the few internal-facing departments here at the City of Dubuque. So our services support the internal folks in the and provide the best and the brightest, the resources they need to do the excellent services that they provide to the city, to the residents of the city. of Dubuque. So what we do is important, and our mission statement, though, reflects the internal nature of what we do. So we have a lot of strategic partnerships, many of whom are here tonight, and collaborations within the city as well as outside the city in recruiting, developing, and retaining a very high-performing and diverse workforce, focusing on the safety and productive work environments for our employees, their families, and their respective departments, making sure that we're maximizing both individual and organizational potential, and that we are an employer of choice here at the City of Dubuque. Can you hear me okay if I step here? Okay.
Yep, you're fine.
So here's our current makeup. There are 7.63 full-time equivalents. We don't truly have a 6.3% person. She's a whole person. There are 8 of us who work there. That's the time in position. The green or sage or whatever color you want to call that are currently vacant positions. Our newest employee started yesterday so that she could be part of this presentation tonight. Her name is Jenny Ginter-Light, and she is our Human Resources Benefits and Payroll Specialist, and that's one of 2 positions that was, I'll talk about this here later on the slides, that was going to be an FY23 improvement package, but because of feedback that we received from our employee satisfaction survey, you graciously agreed for us to be able to amend our FY22 budget and added 2 positions, the Employee Relations Manager position, not yet filled, and then the position that we just filled with the HR Payroll Benefits Specialist. We have a Talent Acquisition Workforce Coordinator, Keisha Doherty, and she transitioned over to Human Resources from Human Rights in October of 2019. Our Benefits and Compensation Manager position is vacant. Gina Knoll left the city in late November, the end of November of last year. Our Administrative Assistant is Tuesday Bless. She has been with the city almost 20 years. Human Resources, I think over 19. Amanda Kopis is that part-time position. She's a Human Resources Specialist, primarily on onboarding of our employees. And then in October, we were so fortunate to have one of the FY22 improvement packages that was approved, positions that was approved for Development and Training Manager position filled by Kelly Larson, the former Director of Human Rights. So she was able to hit the ground running. You'll see that in some of the information that I'm going to provide to you here shortly. So here are some of the highlights so far for fiscal year 2022. It's been a very exciting and extremely busy and very constructive year. Even though we're only about 3/4 of the way through it, I'm going to talk about most of these in greater detail just to illustrate how significantly Kelly Larson was able to hit the ground running. We've had a big focus and push and major changes just in her 5 months in the position with regard to employee development. We have our new employee orientation version 2.0 up and running. It's going on right now. It's nearing its conclusion, and there's just tremendous positive feedback. We've continued, solidified, and expanded the curriculum for our mandatory supervisor training and so much more. We continue to develop our best practice guidance. We have a fully functioning safety committee with subcommittees. We were able to do RFPs for 3 of our various benefits and providers that resulted in some changes and enhancements. We're currently bargaining the 2 Teamsters contracts that expire the end of this fiscal year. I am excited that we're working with Jenny's folks and others on our, we are going to have a human resources information system that's fully digital and integrated with the other enterprise resources projects. So we are doing all the foundational parts of that so that we have an excellent product that we can fully utilize. The rollout for most of the human resources functions is January of 2023 or early 2023, but we're happy to put in the work now so that we have a great end product. We continue with the weekly all-employee call-in webinar. We have done some restructuring of human resources, as you noted from the structure slide that I provided to you. We continue to enhance and expand our support resources. I'm going to talk about recognition paid leave here in just a little bit. I do want to focus because it's been a specter. We hope that we wouldn't have to be talking about it now. And as I'll echo Randy's sentiment, I hope that next year I don't have to talk about COVID-19 to you all, but I do want to focus on, if I can, a little bit of the impact and the activities that we've done in human resources. And again, we don't do anything without collaboration and cooperation with a lot of folks in this room and within the city. We have been chasing and creating temporary COVID-19 policies in response to the ever-evolving CDC guidance, OSHA guidance, federal and state mandates, and OSHA mandates and changes. We had developed for rollout 5 policies, 3 of which were never fully implemented. 2 were recognition paid leave, and then a requirement that our new employees provide proof of full vaccination or are granted an accommodation. We've also, again, with the city manager's office and working closely with health, continued to update information for our employees about what they need to do to make sure we have created the safest workplace possible. We call it the Safe Workplace Guidance. Continually updating that based on the information that's provided to us. In fact, most recently, February 23rd, it was updated. So it doesn't sit still for very long. We have continued to do our OSHA inquiries. It is, I thought I had a number here of how many we had done, but it is a requirement that we do an OSHA inquiry to determine whether or not someone became ill with COVID-19 and the workplace was or was not causal. We did, as I mentioned, the recognition paid leave that provides paid leave to all full and part-time employees within certain positions who work from May of 2020 through the end of December or mid-December 2021, gives them a bucket of paid leave, roughly 40 hours. Obviously, our intent is that they can utilize it for some much-deserved time off, but for those for whom that's either not operationally allowable or permissible, they never lose it. It carries over from year to year, and eventually, should they leave the city at 90, they can then just cash it out at whatever their rate of pay is at that particular point in time. I'm excited to indicate that all of the unions also were willing to negotiate or to put the recognition paid leave as part of their collectively bargained for agreement, so all of our employees who were eligible participated in that. Just a way of saying we know that it was difficult. We know that people had to still come to work. We're grateful that people continue to provide services. We did between July, so I do have the numbers for the OSHA inquiry that we had to do. For any employee who tested positive for COVID-19, 171 employees reported testing positive since July 1st through February 28th. And as you might expect, it started to wane a bit in the summer, but increased significantly in the months of November and December, and it started to come down in January. February, we're down to 7. So I'm hoping that that trend continues, but we had as many as 52, sometimes 4 and 5 folks a day. I'm happy to report it did not have a significantly detrimental effect on our ability to provide all the services and operations. In an effort to make sure that we had multiple means by which we could share information and answer questions that employees had regarding COVID or other engagement matters, we continue to have the weekly noon all-employee call or webinar. Our average person participation, like live participation, has been 69 employees, but we post it on the intranet so those who can't access it from noon to 12:45 can listen to that recorded message and the related materials at any point in time. And I'll bet Randy could probably tell us how many hits that has. And then, of course, lots of messages and communications emailed and sent out to employees throughout the period to address issues and concerns and provide updated information. Okay, so there are for future initiatives, so we are looking forward to capping off a lot of the projects that we've already begun in FY22 and completing them or continuing our focus toward achieving a more centralized, re-centralized, full-service scope of human resources and human capital services. Some of the list of the kinds of things that we'll be focusing on in FY23 are listed there. I want to talk specifically about a few of them because Randy talked about some of the work that they've done to help departments. We have significantly upgraded our recruitment flyers. They look so much better, whether it's a digital access flyer on our site or information that we send or use for job fairs. We've updated the pictures. The formatting of it looks so much better, and we've got a good comprehensive list of total rewards that are listed there. We will complete a classification and compensation study, which hasn't been done for 30 years, so I'm excited that that's going to happen. We will bring forward information about that so that folks can contemplate what they need to do or might want to do budgetary-wise for FY24. We will continue our process for seeking a vendor to do our third-party exit interviews. We have expanded significantly our recruitment pipelines, particularly where we identify a position as underrepresented, and that's going to make sense here in just a little bit. And then we will complete our 4th annual employee survey as a means for continuous improvement, identifying where we can continue to improve. The LEARN system is I call it the transcript. It's the means by which employees who take classes or coursework through the city or complete certifications where that information, currently it's decentralized, or a lot of it is on paper. So the LEARN system is being set up by Kelly. Well, it'll marry to NeoGov, our HRIS system, so an employee can go in and just print out the transcript of, here's the class that I took and when I took it. This provides information about the net property tax support, and our cost for the Human Resources Department support is $8.89 for the average homeowner's property tax. So you've seen the slide on creating an equitable community of choice, and we recognize that that is a priority for the council. And I just want to talk about the four pillars that, and some of the activities that we're engaging in human resources in support of those 4 pillars. So I want to first talk about resiliency. Again, I can't take credit that the human resources team does this in a silo. We do this collaboratively and cooperatively with a lot of different departments throughout the city. So this is new, is the assessment and care team, or ACT team. This is something where we have select individuals act within the city, primarily from the police department. We utilize them as a support person if we have to deliver bad news to one of our employees. That might be in the form of notifying that a complaint has been filed against them and we're conducting an investigation. It might be that we are contemplating a disciplinary procedure and we're doing an investigatory process. It might be that we're doing a Loudermill meeting. It might be that we're doing termination. And so there's a pre-assessment that they do, and then they stay in the room, and then what we're looking for is providing the support and resources so that they are not a danger to themselves or a danger to others, and that we're assessing that. And it's been wonderful. We have utilized it 16 times so far. Started in calendar year January of last year, so it's been a year. The response and the reaction is extraordinarily positive. Employees in those situations really appreciate knowing that they have that privileged support in the room. We continue with our wellness challenges, and each of them has a brain health component. As far as resiliency is concerned, our employee assistance program provider sends a monthly minder or motivator, and we continue to share that across all of our employees. We have created a program of job coaches and mentors for managers so that we can match up, particularly new managers, but not exclusively, with a mentor or a job coach to assist them where there might be skill gaps or information gaps in how to lead. We have like every organization does, we have a tendency to promote really good direct service providers into supervisory leadership positions without the understanding that it's a totally different skill set. And our peer support team continues, again, a privileged resource where someone can talk to another city employee in a privileged manner, just about anything. It can even be conflict, and they are specially trained people who can walk them through that particular process, what resources might be available, and help them establish goals. And of course, our employee assistance program is available to all city employees and all members of their households. It's comprehensive. It's more than just therapy and counseling. It's identity theft protection. It is child and elder daycare resources and services. It's financial consultation, which is being really utilized right now because folks are wanting to file their taxes and they're trying to figure out various kinds of things. It has a huge wellness component as well. So it's much more comprehensive than just counseling and therapy, not to minimize that. In terms of the equity pillar, we have made a great effort in making sure we're using gender-neutral language in all of the policies and procedures over which Human Resources has purview. The employee handbook in particular, I feel very confident, is using gender-neutral language, and we're working, we have changed and updated job titles, again, to be gender-neutral, and we're working with the unions to try to get them on board with that as well. As I mentioned earlier, we're identifying underrepresented positions, and we target recruitment specifically for those. And then we are providing for all of our search panels, because we want them to understand that it's not who you know, but what you know that makes you most qualified for the position. So we train them on how to hire with confidence so that nobody's asking not discriminatory questions or illegal questions. And we recognize that they just don't come out of the womb knowing how to do that. That's information that we need to provide to people, and we're providing that training. As far as the sustainability pillar is concerned, I mentioned the safety committee. It is our goal not to be punitive. It is the safety committee's goal, and it is headed by Tony Breitbach in Jenny's department as the risk manager, and he is doing an outstanding job. It is an outgrowth of our becoming fully insured except for police and fire through the Iowa Municipal Workers' Compensation Association. So there are lots of resources that we're able to tap in there. We have a full-fledged committee that meets monthly, and then 2 subcommittees, one that does incident review and another that works on training, and Kelly Larson serves on that. We do an incident review every month, again, not to find blame, but to what can we learn? What kinds of things can we do different? Is it a training issue? Is it an equipment issue? Is there something that's missing? And then we're doing audits at various locations, again, trying to catch things before an accident happens. And then the near-miss reporting, which is an anonymous process that all of our staff have access to, and it is being fully accessed and utilized. The exciting thing about that is if we can prevent something from happening, that's certainly better than having to clean up after someone's experienced harm. And then from a sustainability perspective, we're also working on identifying our internal experts and training trainers to sustain training opportunities going forward, and particularly for some people who might want just an additional opportunity to grow and develop. For the compassion pillar, I mentioned that we did RFPs for a number of our services, our benefits and services, and as a result, without any additional cost to the city, we did increase the city paid for life insurance, and we added significantly to the premium, or not to the premium, I'm sorry, to the benefit for the voluntary life insurance processes, not only for the employee, but also their spouse and dependents. We provided the recognition paid leave. We're providing crucial conversations training so that people can become comfortable in practicing how to hold conversations and making it safe in doing so. We have a hardwired established harassment complaint procedure and any other employee complaint procedure. And shortly I'll give you the numbers that we've had. And then Jeremy Jensen, earlier you learned that he is very skilled and qualified as an emotional intelligence coach and trainer, and we've continued to expand on that service as well. The second, or the next couple of slides, I'm going to focus on what I think of the 4 human capital focus areas. So development and learning, obviously being led by Kelly Larson as our development and learning manager. She has, in the 5 months she's been here, been around to every department doing a needs assessment with regard to training. What are they currently doing? What are their current processes? What are they tracking and what's missing? And we have a comprehensive roadmap of where we need to go and how we need to do that. She's also looking at multiple media delivery systems. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. Everybody doesn't have to show up in person for 2 hours and have this happen. So she's doing a lot of different means by which folks can access this. In fact, for our new employees, there's 10 hours of just right out of the gate training that they have to do within the first 30 days that can be done by webinar, through webinar. She's developed a training calendar and a comprehensive course catalog. And again, we're working collaboratively with IMWCA, with our EAP provider who also offers training, as well as IMCA. So we are looking at other external resources as well as internal resources. I mentioned our new Employee Orientation 2.0 and the mentoring program. So I just want to give a shout out. The work that Kelly's already completed is already paying off, in that employees have expressed that they have a clear understanding of their role and how to do it safely and efficiently. Anecdotally, I don't have a survey to indicate that, but we're getting that kind of feedback. Talent acquisition is the second focus area for human resources if we're doing full scope service. You probably think of it as recruitment. We call it talent acquisition. We continue to focus significantly on assuring that we have diversity in both our recruitment and our hiring processes. I already alluded to the training on hiring with confidence for all search panels is now a requirement. All of our applications are done online, and all of our questions on the application are legal. Our background check process has been updated to exclude some of the kinds of background checks that historically have not boded well for diverse persons. Our offer letter template and offer process continues to be updated. We send the offer by email, so it's done fairly quickly with a call saying, hey, look at your email. Congratulations, we're intending to offer you a position. Here's what you need to work through. And instead of them all being signed by the Human Resources Department, they come under the department manager's signature with our template. Also in talent acquisition, we have created a driving record and criminal record review and appeals board. So we have specific criteria that we've identified as being necessary for persons to work in certain positions. If someone's on the cusp, or we have questions, or if we're contemplating maybe an accommodation would be appropriate, we utilize Crenna, our risk manager, Tony Breitbach, and myself to review those. Instead of a salary test as far as whether a position is exempt or non-exempt, we've, through attrition, now apply the Fair Labor Standards Act test for exempt versus non-exempt classification, and it's a salary test, and then it's a roles test. And then we have continued to implement the onboarding checklist so that folks have a great experience starting out, including an email that's sent to the employee before they start, welcoming them and so they know what to expect on their first day. And during this year, Keisha has done 9 reclassification requests under our new best practice process. And those can't wait for the compensation and classification review. So here's some information about the employee demographics. So this is a snapshot in time, and we have not hired yet most of our summer employees. So in a few weeks, this is going to shoot up by about 250 to 300 employees. But I had to pick a time. So we have currently 877 total employees. Gender breakdown is 63% male, 37% female. And then you can see the race breakdown there so 96% of our male employees are white, for example. 2.5 identify as Black. And then you can see across the demographics there. Here are our applications and new hire demographics. So what are we hiring? You can see it compared year over year. And then benefits is the fourth. The third focus area within human resources, employee relations. Employee relations tends to deal with labor relations is certainly what people think of when they think of employee relations, but it is also communication and employee engagement processes. So our wellness and our employee satisfaction survey, the follow-up, including focus groups and action plans, and the information that we transparently communicated to our employees about what we learned and what we plan to do with that information, what we're doing well that we want to continue doing, what we need to focus on, and how we might do that to bring some of those scores up. That would be an employee relations activity. The safe workplace guidance, so that we're providing a mechanism whereby employees know what to expect. What do I do if I test positive? What can I expect in my workplace? I alluded to the temporary COVID-19 policies. Our best practice guidance forms and templates. We continue to send those out every day so that no matter what department the employee works in, it's a consistent process and it's not arbitrary. And then the initially daily webinars that went to biweekly, we now do weekly, and we'll continue that. So here's the specific information about our complaint process. Again, there's an informal mechanism and then a formal employee complaint option. This includes complaints that may be based on a protected class, or they don't have to be based on a protected class. So from July 1st until February 28th, and yes, I did have one come in on February 28th, we have had 4 requests for an informal process and 16 formal complaints. So our objective always is to seek and find a resolution for the issues and assure that all parties feel as though they have been heard and everyone gets to tell their side of the story. And we want to find, and that there's an assurance that a thorough review of the issue has been done by objective, non-conflicted parties. Having not yet filled the employee relations manager position, the bulk of the investigations are being conducted by myself, and I can't do it alone, so we have borrowed heavily from Krenna's office with Shantae Weston. Kelly Larson has done a few where she's not conflicted, as has Keisha Doherty, and I have even used department managers and said, you're going to sit second chair, I'm going to teach you this process as we go. So it's a great way for them to skill up on learning how to do non-discriminatory, thorough processes that are going to be legally compliant and help us to get to appropriate resolution. So I'm teaching them how to conduct the interviews, how to determine findings of fact, from which then conclusions are drawn as to the matter that's asserted, and then from that, developing a set of recommendations for resolution, remedy, and then monitor. So it's not only do we want to try to resolve the issue at hand, we want to make sure that it stays corrected and fixed. And we set those things up. We provide that information to the persons in authority to enact those decisions or carry those out. Some of the investigations, some have only taken a matter of days, some take about 6 to 8 weeks. Our average is 21 days. So the last of the focus groups, or focus areas, excuse me, for human resources is our benefits area, our total rewards area. I think people often think of benefits as being insurance and vacation and sick leave, but total rewards for employees is much more than that, and it's much more comprehensive. So we're seeking to address and provide resources for the entire life cycle of our employees, and some of the highlights of the things that we've done are referenced there. I talked about resiliency with the development of the assessment and care team, as well as our peer support team. I got to get that right. The evolution of the emotional intelligence services, our healthcare advisory committee, while it's in the police contract that will establish that, we have persons representative from throughout the organization. We're very transparent about information in terms of utilization and what kinds of things are covered. This is our pie. If we make it more expensive copay or less expensive copay, which other wedge of the pie is going to have to get bigger. So there's a greater feeling that they're understanding some of the decisions that we're making with regard to healthcare and then the ancillary services. We did, as a part of our RFP, change our flex spending provider. As I mentioned, we increased our life and voluntary life options, and that was at no cost to the city, so we just made them better. We received recognition for including transgender benefits in our healthcare, our provider, our health insurance. I alluded to the wellness committee campaigns, including a brain health track. We have seen increased participation in every iteration of our campaigns. I alluded to the safety committee and the EAP services are all kinds of things that are fit under the benefits. It's not a comprehensive list, but fit under benefits. As far as our recommended improvement requests, there are 4. The first deals with the kinds of things that we need in order to, for Kelly to carry out the things with which she's been tasked with completing. So they're primarily development training activities or supplies, and it's things like a Zoom license. So that we can, if we need to do training by Zoom, we can do that, and then also some kinds of training supplies. The second is our peer support and our care team activities, and again, this is certification and recertification for that emotional intelligence team, making sure that we have people who are capable of providing these kinds of services. Thirdly is HR staff development certification, our own professional conference attendance and training, and organizational memberships. It was not something that had historically been provided for, so the only person that had the ability to attend conferences when I came on board was Keisha, who came over from Human Rights because Kelly made sure she was taken care of. And we also want to make sure that folks can use the benefits of membership within their professional organizations. This does include a non-recurring cost of $1,500 to have My Crucial Conversations certified trainer certification transferred to the City of Dubuque, and they'll throw in training one more person to be a certified trainer. So that wouldn't recur once it's done, it's done. And then also the supplies that are needed to do 50 employees, train them in Crucial Conversations training. And the addition of the Juneteenth holiday, again, falls under equity. The first year, it comes under the Human Resources budget, and then after that, it's netted out within each department as a holiday. And then I mentioned I talk about if you had not agreed, and thank you for doing so, to amend our FY22 budget to include those two positions, they would have been part of our FY23 package, our improvement package requests. So thank you for permitting us to do that. We've already begun to see that we can get those folks going and started. Like I said, Jenny's already on board. We expect the employee relations manager to start real soon. So our performance measures are both quantitative and qualitative. The first is to ensure that equal employment opportunities exist for all employees and applicants for employment. We measure that in two ways. We compare gender ratio, and we're trying to make sure that it's consistent with the makeup of our catchment area, the residents of the City of Dubuque. So you can see our target is 51% female to 49% male, and then fiscal year over fiscal year, we're making some slight improvements. So my performance indicator is not that cool little battery thing, it just has the word improving. Sorry about that. And then our target for our percentage of non-white employees, for our area, we would like something greater than 8% who are non-white. You can see year over year, we are right at 8%, so technically we haven't met it because it's not greater than or equal to, it says greater than, but we're so close. The second department objective, as far as performance measure, is to find the best candidate for the job while improving satisfaction and speeding up the recruitment process. So we don't want to do quick hires and bring the wrong people in. So we look at time to fill. Our target is under 60 days. I just established this 2 years ago, so we only have 2 years of data. We were at 58 days was our average. In full transparency, I did throw out one that took a great deal of time because we're going to hire, no, we're not going to hire, we're going to hire, no, we're not going to hire. So I didn't think we should take the hit on it. So we are at 54.3 days, so we consider that met. The candidate net promoter score talks about satisfaction with the application process, and everyone who applies ranks their experience. You want something that is not in a negative number. You want it to average above 0. I'm excited to say we're at 5.999, and I think that has a lot to do with some of the changes that we've made to our application process. I'm not wholly satisfied with it. We're going to continue to work on it, but we're certainly improving it. And then the quality of hire, the presumption is if the individual makes it through their initial employment period and stays through the first year, that we've done a fairly good job in terms of picking quality candidates. And this year we had 100% of our folks who met, so we consider that met. As far as qualitative, we gather this information from our employee satisfaction survey. It's 2 specific questions from that. We're looking at folks who are more engaged if they have a good, positive relationship, someone that they trust or like, that's a coworker. We would like greater than 75% of the person surveyed to indicate that they agree with that statement or strongly agree. We had 94.9%, and that's even an improvement over last year. We consider that met. The quality of feedback, our current question has to do with communication from the city. We may look next year to see if we can't add a more targeted question in terms of, do you feel that you understand what the expectations are of your role, or do you feel that your supervisor is providing timely feedback? But I don't want to switch the questions midstream, so it's the same question. Last year we were at 38%. We have a slight improvement to 40.3, but we have a little ways to go to get to the greater than 75% who agree or strongly agree. Thank you so much for your time. I'm open to any questions that folks may have.
All right. Thank you, Shelley.
You're welcome.
We'll open it to public comment first, please, Adrian.
At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss this public hearing may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for this public hearing. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for this public hearing. Please begin your input by stating your name and address.
All right, I don't see anybody new for in-person public comment, but anybody virtually?
No emails received.
All right, bring back to the table for discussion then.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Resnick.
Yes, thank you. So I noticed, of course, and you've mentioned that we've had 3 additional positions in the last 2 years in this department. So, of course, the question for me was, what's the right size number? What is comparable to perhaps private sector or the government sector? What do other people have for HR? So
I'm sorry.
I was just looking at this Society for Human Resource Management, and they recommend 1.2 or 1.4 HR employee per 100. And so I know we're getting many more employees, but at 877 and 7.63, so we have 0.9. We are far underneath the number of employees per 100. So I was looking at that number as potentially being high, and that we're actually doing a lot with what we have. And so I just wanted to say that I want to appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I know I can see from this that you're all very busy.
Yes, we are. Yeah, the range is 1.25, like you said, to 2.57, depending upon the service, the kind of service that you do. We don't make widgets here. Our service is people. So you tend to go toward the higher end when we're trying to provide the support for human capital. So if you use those statistics, we should have between 9 and 14 full-time equivalents in human resources. I'm excited to have the 8 at this point in time. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Farber.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the presentation, and I'm just very appreciative of all the expertise that you have engaged and the very, very complex nature of what you guys do for a living, because it is hard and some of it is so subjective that it's really sometimes hard to be objective in that role. My question relates to what you just commented about the feedback on your survey and the one that is 38 to 40%. Versus your metric of 75%. What are the plans? Is this something that gets better with the more articulated employee handbook that we have and the coaching and the peer-to-peer relationships and some of those committees that you have established that are on a reach-out basis for communication?
Supervisor training so that supervisors can more clearly articulate the expectations of their employees, catch things when they're at lower level and make corrections, onboarding people well. Those are all going to be things that are going to increase the employee engagement. That second aspect there.
Is there anything that sticks out that needs to be worked on? In other words, from the feedback or lack thereof that gives you information?
Yeah, and Corey, feel free to jump in here. We have an entire plan of things, but certainly anything that will increase supervisory skills. We have a performance evaluation process that we're undergoing that's intended to provide ongoing feedback, not punitively, but for growth and development, and if there are skill gaps, bringing resources to bear so that the person can meet those needs. It is helping people to know how to hold those conversations when they may be somewhat conflict averse. So it's multi-layered, because I wish a magic bullet would fix it all, but we have to look at it much more comprehensively than that. And I'm wondering if the question that we asked was more specific to, do you feel that you understand what your role is, or that your supervisor has adequately provided clarification of what your role is, if that percentage would be different than it is, because it's not an exactly perfect question that we're asking in our survey.
Because
it could be worse, though, frankly.
Yeah, I know, I understand that too, but is it, my question was, is it cultural? Is it something that really needs to be evolved and better expanded upon, or is it because the question set is not perhaps articulated in the fashion?
I wouldn't blame it on the question. I think I don't want to speak for you. I think we agree that it's something that we do need to work on.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Appreciate that.
That's Shelley Sickford's opinion.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. Other discussion, questions? Okay. Well, Shelley, thank you for this presentation, and thank you so much for everything that you do for our organization. You know, just the sheer scope of everything that you shared with us and the things that you do on a daily basis, I think really shows us, you know, this is, I mean, you said how many, 800, how many employees?
877 as of the 15th.
Yeah, 877, and it's going, you said it's going to?
250 to 300 because we aren't doing the hiring freeze in all of our summer programs.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to be held this summer if they're not, COVID won't have the same impact that it did.
Right, absolutely.
So we'll get about 1,100.
Yeah, and you know, since you joined the city of Dubuque a couple years ago, you know, we're making progress. I mean, we see a lot of this on an annual basis of you telling us kind of where we're going and where we've been, and we see that movement, and I for one very much appreciate it. I also haven't heard us say this yet, but I really appreciate that we're adding Juneteenth as a holiday, as a city government. I think this is a very important time to move forward in that way, and I appreciate that we are taking that step and progressively moving in that direction. So thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for your presentation tonight.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Okay, we will take a moment here, refill some water, and then move along. Equalize. Yes, equalize.
Here we go. Less speakers.
No pressure?
No.
Was she waiting to talk about your mother?
Thanks, Jenny.
You got a
And his daughter's
Now, if I was Mary Rose presenting, this is the point where she makes us do jumping jacks.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Everybody stretch.
So you're saying we're not supposed to
Back
go
is
eat
going
those
to take a
cookies
beating
in the back?
during this.
And for her, of course.
My brother, Bill, wrote the obituary. The last paragraph was just flooring.
When's that? Is it in the paper today?
No, it'll be on the funeral home website.
There are cookies back there?
What type of cookies? I might sell it.
This might.
Honor her memory, love people.
Gotta sell it.
So maple syrup is no processed sugar, by the way.
Thank you.
You buttering us up for a budget presentation?
Hi, who made this? What is it, peanut butter?
It is tahini, so sesame.
Oh, it's really good.
Well, I always like to try new things. Tahini.
He's fasting, and he's on my wellness committee. He doesn't get to eat.
Cookie in 7 months. I'm not starting now.
That's discipline there, Mike. All right.
Thank you.
All right, so Corey, as you begin, I hope you don't mind if some of us are standing as some of the rest of us are sitting. We'll be moving around at this point in the evening. So we'll go ahead and begin with the city manager's office, please.
You know, we're installing stand-sit desks at work. We're doing healthy treats. You're part of the team.
I would love to see how we could get this desk to stand up. All right, go for it.
All right, well, thank you for sticking with us this evening. City Manager's Office. I'm Corey Burbach. I'm the Assistant City Manager. I will be presenting primarily on the administration activity. Our Director of Strategic Partnerships, Terry Goodman, is on the phone, and she will be presenting on our partnerships and legislative actions. And our Sustainability Coordinator, Gina Bell, will be providing treats and addressing our sustainability activity this evening. So the City Manager's Office mission statement is really to assist all of our departments in implementing the vision statement that you all set out. And we do that both through the specific projects and teams and all sorts of committees that we're involved in, but also by providing leadership and facilitating different initiatives that you will hear about through all of the budget presentations. So I like to say we have our hands in a lot of those presentations, but we're going to highlight some of the things that are primarily led by the City Manager's Office this evening. We have had a number of changes in faces in our city manager's office this year, if you've been in to visit us. First, I want to say farewell and thank you and congratulations to Juanita Hilkin. She retired after 21 years of service with the city and is in a much warmer climate this evening and not here with us. I want to say welcome to Justin Tilchin and Melody Burnett. Justin came on as a limited term position that we're going to talk a little bit about later, and Melody is our new part-time secretary, so we're very excited about that. And then a big congratulations to Stephanie Valentine, who I know you all know excels in her work and was promoted to our office manager to Juanita's position. So congratulations to all of them. This is what the org chart for the city manager's office looks like today. You can see that we do have a vacant secretary position that was created. That's a full-time when Stephanie was promoted that we are interviewing now, so we're excited to hire for that soon. And then currently Gina's Sustainable Dubuque intern is also vacant, but we look to hire that position as well soon. When we talk about improvement packages later, Gina will talk more about the climate action coordinator that's requested and recommended for funding. So this is just an updated version of what our organizational chart would look like should that position be approved by you all through this budget process. Our job, as I mentioned at the beginning, is to implement the vision that you all have set out for our community, and this is the vision that you will hear each department talking about throughout the budget process and how they're part of that. I want to highlight, again, as I mentioned, we're involved in many specific initiatives that do work towards these pillars of resiliency, sustainability, equity, and compassion. But overall, again, thinking about how we support other departments in achieving that, I want to highlight two things. One is that you will hear from Terry Goodman how all of the work that we're doing around ARPA and the infrastructure bill, it is a breath of fresh air to be working with a federal administration who has also asked us to prepare our applications around equity and sustainability and resiliency. So at a very high level, we're working in a similar strategic fashion with those federal agencies. And then also, you'll hear me mention some of the same things that Shelley did. I just wrapped up our latest round of new employee orientation, where we spend one of the first sessions with all new employees, 3 hours really digging into the mission, vision, and values of the organization. And it's a very interactive session. I think we go through case studies. It's a great time for every employee in the organization, regardless of position, to think about how do I, when I show up to work as part of the City of Dubuque organization, implement these values. So I really appreciate the feedback that we've gotten from those new employees who are excited to show up and excited to work for the city because they want to serve their community and they want to have a community that implements these things. So that's a little bit of how it happens in the city manager's office. In the administrative activity, we have a lot of highlights this past year. Again, I hope next year we're not talking about COVID, but we'll lead off with COVID. We continue to be involved both on the public health side of things, but a lot of work in the past year has been around employee support. As we try and figure out what a new normal work environment looks like, as we deal with brain health issues, as we try and address burnout that we know is there for employees, many initiatives that we have been working on in response to COVID-19. And you heard Shelley mention several of those things. I'll highlight two specific things. One was the creation of recognition leave, and I think it's worth repeating from the human resources presentation because it's so important that we thank all of our employees for the work that they have done in the past 2 years. The second, and the photo on the right is a highlight from this. Unfortunately, we have not been able to have our employee appreciation luncheon and our Spirit Awards in person in the last 2 years. And that is kind of our signature way that we all gather as an organization. We don't get the chance to do that outside of that event where we bring all of our departments together and to celebrate the work that we've done. So we tried to get creative this year. We asked each department to host some type of appreciation event or gift or recognition of the employees that would be meaningful and specific to their department. We actually hosted a City Hall Annex Halloween party where we brought in a food truck. Mike, you will notice, is not part of the costume of the city manager's office. And I will say that that public information office only beat us because they had more people and they brought Skittles for everybody. They might have bought some votes.
Wait a minute, I wasn't at work that day. It's not like I didn't do it.
The city manager's office showed up in our solar panels to reflect our priority of sustainability. In the area of organizational development, as Shelley mentioned, Mike and I are both part of that core executive team that meets on a regular basis to make sure that we are moving forward in our goals of becoming a more equitable organization of choice, and that we are really keeping our finger on the health of the organization. So several things have happened in the past year, and the way that the city manager's office is most directly involved in that is as we update things like the employee handbook, our administrative policies, and really making sure that we're offering the support to our supervisors at all levels of the organization from the manager's office so that they can develop those skills. We, as Shelley mentioned, I participate in the supervisor training, new employee orientation. We're really excited to have a new component of that will be rolling out this spring that's all around high-performing government. So it's an opportunity that a few employees in the city have had so far to go through some training around innovation and process improvement. And moving forward, every city employee will have at least an introductory session with those concepts. So we're very excited about that. My role is often to support departments in the innovation and reorganization work that they're doing. And so throughout the budget process, through these hearings, you'll hear about how we created a facilities management division in the past year, which is very exciting. That's housed out of engineering, but is providing support for all of our departments that have previously managed their own buildings. And then a new initiative that we're working on, the tentatively named Division of Community Impact and Leisure Services. So I've been working with both of those departments in the work that they're doing. And then the last bullet on this slide is citizen response and support. And I put that on there because you all know, you interact with citizens. That is kind of a day-to-day task that we undertake in the city manager's office. And if I was doing it right, I really would have put this first, because this is some of the most important work that we do in addressing the issues that come into our office that are priorities for our residents. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Terry Goodman. And Terry, I will run your slides.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
You can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Corey. I appreciate it. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to speak about our upcoming budget requests. I just want to begin by emphasizing one of Corey's slides, and that is partnership, people planning and partnership. You know, the city of Dubuque has accomplished so much in the last 3 decades or more. And when we stop and think about it, we know that we could not have been as successful as we have been, nor will we be as successful in the future if it were not for these partners. And when I say partners, I mean everyone. I mean, we work currently, I work in advocacy at the state and federal level for city council goals and priorities. I also work with the county. I work largely with the Iowa League of Cities, the National League of Cities, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the Metro Coalition in Iowa. We work with congressional staff on a weekly basis, and also with the White House staff, governor's staff, state legislators, and state administrative staff. Some of you may not be aware, but there are 15 executive administrative offices in Washington, D.C. We work with every one of them. There are 12 in the state of Iowa. We also work with staff and directors in those offices. So that's a part of the work that we do. But it's not just the partnerships that we have in government, in our, our partners that are in different levels of government, but we have worked with literally every year, dozens and dozens of community partners in the nonprofit sector, but also in the private sector. And without those partners, we would not be so successful. I also want to mention that we're going to talk a lot next Monday at a work session about mention the ARPA grant, but we're moving forward and looking at the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the opportunities we see there. But I just want to make it clear that there are different kinds of grants. And for example, we're going to start here with the FEMA direct support. FEMA is a grant where we are reimbursed after we expend funds. FEMA is a federal disaster funding, and this year we received $261,487. There is one more, according to Cassie and Jenny's office, there will be one more FEMA direct support check coming this year because the disaster has now been proclaimed ended. We also received $13 million last year in ARPA direct funding for the city, and the county also received funds as well as the city. The airport, as you may recall, both in the last administration through the CARES Act, but now also in ARPA, the airport and transit received direct support. This is because there was a singular focus really on trying to keep air service in this country open during the pandemic because it was so crushed by, all that happened. But transit also for people to get to jobs and to overcome barriers presented by COVID. Housing received direct funds the last 2 years, but not this year. That CDBG fund is an easy way for the federal government to get money to cities and local governments and to the state. And while there was no direct disaster support this year, there has been the past 2 years. But we did receive our annual entitlement. So there's disaster funding, which is direct support based on formula. There's also entitlement support, for example, that our housing department gets every year for CDBG. That doesn't mean that's all the money we can get. We can always go after competitive grants, and that's another source of funds. Next slide, please, Corey. So what other grants have we received? I just want to say, my goodness, Alexis Steger in the housing department deserves a gold star. Alexis and her staff went after every single grant that was possible this year, and they secured every single grant through HUD, competitive grants. So $2 million there for the Healthy Home Supplement. They have a lead in Healthy Home Supplement, which is going to be very important because I think we're going to be able to use that to leverage some of the SRF, the EPA revolving loan funds that are coming specifically and will be forgivable for lead. That's part of the infrastructure bill. There's also the older adult home modification grant that we received. Again, Alexis and her staff really went out on a limb, and we're working in partnership there with the HEART program and their adult HEART program, where we're going to be working with students and also with adults who have sort of timed out between 18 and 35 to develop job training skills so that this will be an experience they can take on to secure jobs in other areas. Technical assistance grants are not money per se, but they have a value. And that's when EPA technical experts come in and help us and say, here's what I think you should do. Here's a grant you could go for. And if we have these technical assistance grants, like any planning grant, they are a foundational piece of our work in securing grants. So as we go for brownfields or other economic development grants, there were EPA brownfields or other work needs to be done, these technical assistance grants really help us. You have heard about Jenny Brandt's tremendous success there with the National Endowment for the Arts through ARPA with the ReGrant program that's going to be identifying arts organizations in the community who will receive ongoing operational support grants to restore them to their pre-COVID health, financial health. We do get funding from the U.S. Department of Justice that goes to the police department, but there was also a U.S. Department of Justice $495,000 grant that went to the Riverview Center this year. And again, that was Joey Taylor was he just went out on a limb and applied for a grant and was successful in getting more than they asked for, the $450,000. So these are funds that are coming into the community from ARPA specifically. That was part of ARPA. AmeriCorps received its community service grant, and the HRDP grant award. Chris Olson wrote a tremendous grant for the Black Heritage Survey in Dubuque, and that is ongoing. And those funds came from the State Department of Cultural Affairs for $30,000. These are samples of additional grants that were received last year. Next slide, please, Corey. I just want you to know that there are exponentially more grants right now. I can't even quantify how many grants are coming. ARPA will continue. Grant opportunities for ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, will continue until 2025. infrastructure bill that just passed, those grants will go out to 2029. So this isn't just grant writing that we'll be performing this year. It's not one and done. These grants will be repeated annually. So the opportunity we have here, these grants don't come in and help us with operational support at the city, but the grants are for projects and programs or delayed maintenance, delayed infrastructure improvements or replacements, particularly water infrastructure. Water infrastructure was funded by the federal government directly at local level until the 1970s. After the Clean Water Act, the focus was put on the EPA and the SRF, the State Revolving Loan Fund, which council is very aware of as it helps us to pay for the B branch. But this is really the first time we have a chance to replace water infrastructure that has been languishing not just in Dubuque but around the country, with a $350 billion backlog just in drinking water, but also then in wastewater. So this is an opportunity coming up that isn't going to be ending this year. It's going to go through 2030, frankly. And I'm very grateful that we were able to hire a technical grant assistant and researcher this year. City staff, myself and others included, Justin, have put in already since last March 952 hours in just attending webinars to learn about grants and what they're looking for in each grant so that we can be competitive. Other partnerships that I want to highlight is, we got a grant for the planning assistance to states. Darren Meering oversaw the master plan for the city. Now you say, well, we had a master plan for our riverfront. We do. But again, this is planning that has to be done by the Corps of Engineers in order to make us eligible for grants. So we did get the grant. We got the Section 16 or Section 14 grant for riverbank stabilization to be able to protect that sanitary sewer line that carries 95% of the city's waste down to the riverfront, over the river wall, the flood wall, and then over down to Catfish Creek and up to the plant. That's been exposed for a number of years because just through flooding or, water levels rising and falling, we were in a very precarious position. And so the Corps of Engineers, we secured that grant and they came in and they're repairing that currently. We've also been contacted that there's a Section 205 grant that we had asked for 5 or 6 years ago. Mayor Buell had written a letter to the Army Corps District Office, but we were told, well, there's no New Start money. We don't have money to bury the wall. That sat there. Now we've been told there was money in the infrastructure bill and we can compete to secure a grant to fund burying the south wall. That's a possibility. It's very competitive. But if we hadn't had this planning assistance to states grant, it was paid for by the Corps to study our waterfront, so the Corps knows what we need, we would not be eligible. Brownfields, the success we've had with brownfields. We're going to be going after those. We continue to work on those at the Bloom property. The RAISE grant, sadly, last year we were not successful, again, because we don't have enough planning and engineering done. This is just critical. We've gone through some lean years because of COVID, and before that, we're reducing our debt, and we're happy about that, but we're just now at a point where we will see success or failure based on planning and engineering done for grants. National Endowment for the Arts has a new grant out that Jenny released yesterday to all of our partners in the arts organizations. Mike is on the Iowa Finance Authority board. There are going to be a lot of federal infrastructure dollars flowing into the state, $1.4 billion to be exact, and a lot of that money is going to go through the Iowa Finance Authority, which of course is run by Deb Durham, who also runs the Iowa Economic Development Authority. So we're keeping our eyes on that. Homeland Security Emergency Management and the Office, OCIA, we're working very closely with them on a cybersecurity grant that's available right now through the infrastructure bill. We are continue to work with all of these organizations, with these departments, and also we work with Senators Grassley, Ernst, and Henson on a weekly basis on grant advocacy. Next slide, please. So I've already covered some of this. So these partnership initiatives are underway in the Dubuque community. We also attend chamber meetings, GDDC meetings, Air Service Task Force meetings, development committee meetings for Fountain of Youth, for the Lantern Center. We attend monthly meetings for the Iowa Department of Transportation and the Iowa Flood Mitigation Board. So we have been very busy pursuing grants already in the past year, and as they have increased exponentially. But what we've had so far has been hourly information coming for the American Rescue Plan Act. Now we're moving into, a fire hose situation with the infrastructure bill. So I just want you to be aware of some of these other initiatives we have going on, and I want to continue with the next slide. And that speaks for itself. And I've already mentioned this to you, and that is that this is historic and unprecedented. They don't think this money has been invested in infrastructure in this country since FDR was president. So you understand the significance of it and the importance of our successful competition for funding for these big projects that we have in both water and surface transportation and in other economic development areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. So as we look to the next year in the city manager's office, we have a number of exciting initiatives that...
Hey, Terry, it sounds like you're flying away. I think you need to hit mute there.
I'm at an airport meeting.
I wouldn't doubt it. That we are excited to build on the actions that have taken place in the past couple of years. The first one is actually a new one in the time I've been with the city at least, and that is a biannual resident survey that we will be launching in the next quarter. Think of this as a very high-level customer service survey. How are we doing? What are the types of things happening in your community that you're excited about and that you want to see more of? We oftentimes, and Randy alluded a little bit to it, will ask for public input on particular services, but we don't have a really high level kind of broad brush across the organization. How are we doing? And so this will be an initiative that we will launch. Again, there's funding every other year so we can track ourselves against ourselves over time and hopefully improve. And then there are also some options out there for a type of resident survey that's done by many cities across the country so we can compare ourselves to other communities that we aspire to be like. So we'll start working on that this spring. We will continue to implement the action plan that Shelley mentioned, that executive core team is working on, that's really focused on the organizational health and responding to the feedback that we receive through the employee survey every year. In the area of data-driven decision-making, we will continue work, and you've seen progress over the years for those of you who have been around through goal setting for a few years, as we really try and not only achieve all of the projects that you identify as priorities every year, but dig into the outcomes around each of your 8 goals and say, what does it truly mean to be an equitable, sustainable, resilient community? And how do we measure that success? And how do we make sure that everyone in the community is experiencing the same success? So we'll continue our work in this area by working with the Office of Shared Prosperity and the Office of Equity and Human Rights to really drill into not only the data that we collect, but what we're finding more and more is that being able to access and share data that's collected by other organizations is important to really track the health of our community. So putting more strategies in place to do that type of work will be important this year. I mentioned that we're rolling out a new employee orientation module that's around high-performing government. So that is our effort to make sure that everyone in the organization, if we're thinking horizontally, has an opportunity to work in this space. And then we're also working on a couple of case studies that will really do a deep dive in those process improvement and innovation concepts with specific service areas. So we'll be engaging other departments in that work as well. We have learned a lot in the past couple years from COVID about all sorts of things in our operations. And we've also fortunately been able to learn from, unfortunately, what other communities have experienced in terms of emergencies such as the derecho. that hit the Cedar Rapids area. And so in the upcoming year, we have a number of planning and drill opportunities where we will be looking to take some of those things that we've learned and hopefully be more prepared for whatever comes next. And also really, we've been talking with some of our partners about what it looks like to use an equity lens around emergency preparedness. And so we'll be doing some work there to dig into things like shelters and communication. Again, using some of those things that, if you remember, throughout the pandemic, for a while we had an equity outreach committee meeting very regularly. And some of the lessons that they've learned, they have shared with us, and we want to implement to all of our emergency management work. And then, as Terry mentioned, that infrastructure bill, ARPA, and all of our regular state and federal legislative advocacy will continue to keep us on our toes for at least the next 5 years. So we will continue to work in all of those areas as well. The FY 2023 requested operating budget for the city manager's office has a net operating property tax support of about $879,000. And you can see there that the impact of our office on the average homeowner is about $13.04. We have 2 improvement packages that the city manager is recommending for funding in the administration area. The first is a downtown city employee transportation benefit. So the way that parking essentially works now is some city facilities are fortunate enough that they have their own parking lots and are able to offer free parking for their employees. In City Hall and the Annex and the Multicultural Family Center, if you've been down there, you know that we have a limited number of parking spots. Historically, those parking spots have been assigned based on a salary grade, so everyone at a certain level and above was assigned a parking spot. We have received feedback through the employee survey that says that if we're thinking about equity within our own organization, some of our lowest paying staff are the ones that are paying for parking. So that was kind of what triggered us to say, let's dig a little bit more. And then as we thought about how we, as an employer, can model implementing the 50% by 2030 climate action plan, we looked at how we could not just pay for parking spots, but encourage multimodal transportation. And so this improvement package would offer a transportation incentive for every city employee who works in those spaces. And the logistics of that would be worked out to also encourage public transit, car sharing, walking and biking to work, all of those things that we want our employees to be doing. And then our second improvement package is to take the position that I mentioned earlier, Justin Tilchen's grant analyst position, which was funded for 1 year with savings from a vacant ICMA fellowship that we did not fill, and fund that position for 5 years, as Terry mentioned, as we anticipate that there will be plenty of work to keep him busy in the next 5 years. Do you want to take this one? Okay.
Good evening, Gina Bell, City Sustainability Coordinator. The recommended improvement packages for the Sustainability Office include a new position. It's full-time, limited term for 3 years. And then it also comes with additional climate action funding, specifically focused on energy efficiency in buildings. And so this person could start and they would have money to then start implementing actions from the climate action plan. And then the third item is continuation of the Teen Resiliency Corps. We've done it for 2 years. It's been privately grant funded, and now we want the city to kick in. It's a pretty low investment for a lot of resiliency building in our neighborhoods, as well as involving youth in climate action.
There are 4 capital improvement projects in the city manager's office that are recommended for funding. Most of these are, in one way or another, items that come before you on somewhat of a rotating basis. So the community greenhouse gas inventory and climate action planning is on a 3-year rotation, and that's considered sort of best practice in the industry for updating your data points and looking forward. Gina has talked to you before about the Renew DBQ low-income solar pilot project that we are very excited to see move forward. The Downtown Urban Renewable Nonprofit Weatherization Assistance has been offered to nonprofits as it was created that were council priorities. And again, this offers the opportunity for nonprofits in that urban renewal area to complete weatherizations so that their utility bills go down and they can spend more of their funding on providing services to the community, which we love to see. And then lastly, we have brought back the CIP for All America City application. This would be for a 2023 competition, ideally, and this would be for the travel associated with typically what we use these funds for is to be able to bring partners with us to that competition if we're chosen as a finalist that really tell the story of whatever projects we're highlighting that would not be able to travel without the city providing some additional funds. I do want to highlight this one just a little bit because I always get asked, what's the benefit of this application? And of course, there's some community pride that happens here. And we have heard from businesses who talk about the fact that when they look at moving to a community, that All America City emblem on the city's website is a designation that says, this is the quality of life in a community that my employees are going to want to live in. And there is value in that. Nancy Van Milligan from the Community Foundation, and I also had the chance to present on a National Civic League webinar earlier this year about what Dubuque has gained from being a 5-time winner. And as we were reflecting, it was really more about what happens when we get home. That's the value of this process. The same time I was preparing that presentation is right when the fire department was accredited this year. And I'm going to share a quote from Rick Steinus that he talked about the accreditation process, but as I reflected on the All America City competition, it sounds a lot like an accreditation process for a community. So Rick said, it's not what you get, referring to the accreditation, it's what you become. You don't get accredited, you become accredited, and as an accredited agency, you build a culture of continuous improvement. And as I think about the folks that flew with me to Denver in 2019, the last time we competed, some of those folks I had only known for a couple months. And when the pandemic hit, they're the first people I called to say, who are the people in our community we need to help the most? And those relationships that form in a competition process like this, that's also about celebrating, are the value in that investment. So thank you for your continued support of Dubuque's All America City efforts. So in the administration area, we have a few performance measures to highlight. You've heard the city manager talk previously about the city property tax rate comparison and where we compare to other communities. And so I'm not gonna highlight that again this evening. And the second slide looks at it in a slightly different way and looks at property taxes per capita. And again, you can see that Dubuque is almost near the top of that list. I will highlight a couple of other areas in our performance measures. One is our ability to maintain an efficient citizen response rate. So we measure this both on the left. This is a chart that looks at all department responses to web QAs. So across the organization, we have a target that we will close at least 75% of those out in 10 days or less, knowing that some of them are more complex issues and they will require nuisance enforcement or construction or other things like that, but generally we're shooting for 10 days or less. And you can see that year to year, our departments do a great job in staying right in or above that target. And then the graph on the right looks at number of days to resolve resident issues, and this is specific to the city manager's office. So these are the issues that often come in because they haven't seen a resolution with a other department, or they're more complex and they involve multi-department response. And you can see here our target of 7 days to close, and we continue to be under that, which we are proud of. And our last performance measure deals with our ability to hire and retain a highly skilled city workforce reflective of the community. You saw Shelley present numbers on the organization as a whole, and what we do in the city manager's office is take that demographic and look specifically at our leadership team composition to look at a little bit different approach. This is a point in time, again, that we collect, so it's not perfect, but it gives us a pretty good understanding. On the left, you can see in kind of that orange color is our target. So and I apologize, I lost the labels on the bottom. So the left set of bars is female as compared to the 2021 census estimates, and the right set of bars is non-white. So you see orange is our target for both of those, and you can see in the gender balance that we did take a pretty significant drop in our leadership team at the point we gathered this data, which was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Some of that has to do with the hiring freeze and a number of positions that we're starting to bring back on board, and I anticipate that that number will balance out in the coming year. And then on the right, you can see that we continue to work towards that target of 9% non-white to reflect the community and hopefully move past that As we see our youth in the community, we know that that demographic is going to continue to change. So we will continue to work with HR and all of our departments to hit those goals.
All right, good evening. I want to start with a quote from Carl Sagan, which is, "Anything else you're interested in is not going to happen if you can't breathe clean air and drink the water. Don't sit this one out. Do something." You are here, not by accident, alive at this absolutely critical moment in the history of our planet. And as city councilors and mayor, you are in a position of influence to change outcomes for the better of our residents and of our city and of our planet. Sustainability has been a long-time part of our mission and our vision, and your continued leadership in this area is necessary and important. So thank you for your past support, and hopefully you can learn a little bit about what my office has done this past year. I'm going to try to be brief, but don't mistake that for not having done a lot of work. So, our plan for the Climate Action Plan was updated, and we've started outreach efforts this past year. We had a CIP last year to do so, and we'll continue to do that. We want to work towards solutions that work for everyone, and make sure that climate action is a part of people's daily lives, and that they can see why it's important and how it benefits them. The Teen Resiliency Corps, you've heard a lot about them, you've met them, they're on the screen with you here, but they have done a remarkable job building their own resiliency as well as resiliency throughout neighborhoods in the downtown area. And we're really proud of that work. And of note, we're going to present the model at the Government Alliance on Racial Equity's National Conference in April. Civic Leaders is near and dear to my heart. It came, it's modeled after a program for the organization Adelante Mujeres, where I used to work, and I wrote a grant to get this. It's a long game for sustainability. We want to empower future leaders, and we want them to understand everything about being civically engaged, and including where sustainability fits in there. So that was a partnership originally with the Human Rights Department and my department. It's shifted to Office of Shared Prosperity, so you'll probably hear a little bit about it from them as well. But in our first cohort, members have gone on to serve on city commissions, and one is running for city council, and they've done a lot of great work, and we really focused our outreach efforts on historically excluded populations. So that's low-income white residents, Black, Marshallese, and Latino residents, and the class very much reflected that. We've also done a ton of fleet electrification work that started with our Volkswagen Clean Air Act settlement grant to install a fast charger at the Port of Dubuque. So that work is moving forward, and it's brought together a group of city folks to work on all sorts of other fleet electrification and charging infrastructure issues that we have, as well as a regional look at what charging infrastructure can happen for Eastern Iowa. And then last but not least, our Carbon Disclosure Project. This is a rating that we get, and we greatly improved our score this last year, and we want to continue to focus on where we didn't score as high and make more improvement moving forward. Did I skip any? Oh, the Renew DBQ Solar Project. So it's moving along. I was hoping that by the time I stood in front of you, I could say, hey, we did an installation, but we're not there yet. But we've gathered our partners. We're working closely with the Dubuque County Energy District, local solar installers, financial institutions here in Dubuque, and we've identified all of the homes that we're going to do these on. We're solar siting them. Our next step is to apply for interconnection. We'll see how that process goes. It can be a long time, but once we have that, we can start installing solar panels on 10 homes in the downtown area, so it's really exciting. And of note, for that project specifically, we took the initial $40,000 investment from the city, and we were able to leverage $25,000 in cash that will help make up the shortfall from the lost Iowa State solar tax credit, and then more than $10,000 of in-kind support and materials from partners. So it was a great way to leverage additional funds. So in the future, we're going to keep on with this Climate Action Plan implementation. It's a giant plan. It's an expensive plan, and it's really critical. We've seen the second part of the sixth assessment from the IPCC. Doesn't look good, but we have to do our part, right? We have to have hope, and we have to keep moving forward. We certainly want to make sure that the city is leading and by example, but also we want to loop in businesses and residents. And so we're going to do that through continued work with the solar project as well as our fleet electrification and then building energy efficiency. Our city work has long focused on the nexus of climate and equity, and that positions us well, as Terry talked about, for future federal funding. And fortunately, we've been doing that since the beginning, and so we're well positioned as we look for grants and other funding opportunities. I continue to staff the Resilient Community Advisory Commission. You can see the current makeup up there. They focus on city priorities and where that fits within the climate action plan, and they try to support departments that want to implement the climate action plan. They also score and recommend the Sustainable Dubuque grants twice a year, as well as the position that is in front of you what came as a recommendation from the commission. My office also has the Sustainable Dubuque grants, so we've given almost 150 to date and over $200,000. And every project makes sure to include the community in some way, either education or engagement. And here are two pictures. Lots of it has to do with food. I'm focused on food access and food growing, but there is a variety of different projects and they're all over the city. And they oftentimes meet the needs of our residents, and it's a really flexible grant, so I'm appreciative of that funding source. And then our 50% by 2030 climate action plan. Again, we continue to do community engagement. We want everyone to know what this is and why it's important. We want to address the needs of our most vulnerable residents through climate action, and then align the work with other departments. My department is not going to do the entire climate action plan, nor is the city. We need everybody, but a lot of it falls to other departments, so I get to help support their work through the climate action plan and what it has to say. And then our Growing Sustainable Communities Conference has been on hiatus for 2 years due to safety concerns, but we're planning on being back in person in 2022. Fortunately, we did a lot of planning and organizing last year before we canceled it, so we already have our keynotes. We're accepting calls for proposals right now, and we have Crescent Electric is returning as a longtime premier sponsor, along with other sponsors. So we're in really good position to move that forward. And I personally am very excited to have a bunch of like minds back together to talk about, how have we been the last 2 years and where are we going to move forward, and just to kind of have that energy located in the city to talk about growing sustainable communities. And then we have our Green Iowa AmeriCorps team. So this year we have a team of 3. We're adding on a position in April, so there'll be 4. And they have been working all over the city. Having a smaller team than normal has not stopped them from doing a large number of audits. They're marked by the blue flags. And then you can see red or orange colored ones, and those were the Energy Saver kits. So those were homes that they didn't go into, but they gave them the supplies and videos and instructions of how to weatherize their own homes. And you can see the focus has been on the Alpine Park mobile community. They spent a couple of evenings up there, and then they've been continuing to go back and do weatherizations there, which hopefully has made a difference in both builds and comfort for folks. They also do a ton of volunteering within the community. They work at St. Vincent de Paul, they work at Convivium, and special events throughout the community. So they're just a really great asset. All right, our performance measures haven't moved much since last year. We continue to hover right at 15 pesticide-free parks. A lot of that has to do with staffing capacity in the Parks Department. It does take more staff to keep our parks pesticide-free, but we'll keep working towards our goal and limiting our pesticide use as best we can. And then Sustainable Dubuque grants, we'd like to see that at about a half pie. We'd like to give about half of the grants that we receive. So we receive way more applications than we have money to fund, but it is still a large investment and leverages other funding in our community. So hopefully we can make a shift as we continue to do that. We have another grant due on March 15th. And that's it. Thank you for all of your support.
All right, well, thank you, Corey, Terry, and Gina. Adrian, we'll go ahead and open it up for public input, please, first.
At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss this public hearing may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for this public hearing. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for this public hearing. Please begin your input by stating your name and address.
All right, so I'm not seeing anybody new in chambers here. Anybody virtually? Okay.
No emails received.
Nothing from email. Okay, then back to the table here. Yes, Mr. Spring.
Yeah, thank you, Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the fact that we're finally doing a grant person, because essentially this has been something I saw a need 2 years ago. It's like, we need a full-time grant person. So I'm really glad that we're going to make that's happening, and we're going to make it happen. So thank you for making that happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Farber.
So I echo Mr. Sprank's support for the grant person also. I have a question. Item number 3 out of 7 on the listing of the improvements talks about complete streets through policy updates. Could I just ask for a clarification as to what that exactly means? It appears that that's the only one that was not approved.
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Thank you.
We have a complete streets policy.
Right.
What we're looking for and what's recommended in our climate action plan is a little bit more comprehensive. We don't have any tracking system associated with it. There isn't any scheduled maintenance associated with it. And so some of the things that are best practices in complete streets policies we want to implement. So it is some policy change that we can do on paper for free, but other parts of it would cost money, and that's what the package was for.
Okay, so it's mainly the broader broader policy for the implementation of enhancing our streets within our neighborhoods?
Correct, and making them for different modes beyond just cars, so walking, biking, transportation.
Okay, and is that something that perhaps will reappear, or?
I'm sure it will reappear, yes. I think it's one of the things that we can do that will reduce our greenhouse gases quite a bit for a little bit of effort.
Okay, thank you. And also thank you for your efforts on the electric vehicle charging stations. In my family now, we have 2 electric vehicles, and so we're just really looking forward to more people doing and supporting the environment that way. So I greatly appreciate the fast charges. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Resnick. Yes, thanks. I guess the first question is for Jenny Larson or Mike. I noticed in the very front page, the city manager's office, the employee expenses is up almost 40% in 2 years. And I was looking through all the different numbers, and the salaries aren't going up that much. Could you tell me perhaps what would be, I mean, I know we did another almost 1 FTE, but not even that. So we go from 9.67 to 10.42, and yet our cost, employee expense is up 39%. I was just wondering what that might be. I was looking through the numbers, I couldn't find what the difference might be. And so maybe while you're looking and let me know that, Corey, the All-American City Partnership, I remember in past budgets, we've had it listed as $25,000, and last time in 2020, we actually spent $10,000. And I remember that past councils have asked, are we doing community partnerships on this? And that the 20,000, I just was wondering, and have we thought about, we were thinking, really, are we going to do this every year, every 2 years, every 3 years? Is that part of the conversation too? Like every 3 years, it looks like from 20 to 23, is that about the right amount of time, or is it just happen to be that this time?
That's generally a good amount of time, and there is a theme every year of the competition. And what we've typically seen from the National Civic League is that every other year will be what they call a general competition. And that's where the National Civic League's priorities of civic engagement and equity are always the overarching umbrella. But they'll say, tell us about your 3 best projects, and you get to choose. So that happens every other year. That's what we did in 2019. And then on the off years, there's typically a specific program. So in 2013 and 2017, when we won, it was around 3rd grade reading. So part of what helps us make the decision is what the topic is and whether we think we'll be competitive. And then the costs depend on who we bring with us. So if we bring individuals from an organization, from a partner who's sending a staff, oftentimes they can cover part of their travel. But what we have found is that when we want to bring more community members to tell that grassroots story, that they can't afford it, and that's when we'll cover their costs.
I see. Thank you. Is there so not every every 3 or 4 years, or just when we think we have a good chance to bring home
It's a little bit of both.
a little bit of both? All right. Thank you. And so Ms. Bell, you talked about the Sustainable Dubuque grants, and so many people are applying for them and that can't give them. I just want to let you know, and you probably know the landfill agency that Mr. Jones and I has a grant program, a waste minimization grant, and I don't know if they're unsuccessful with you, maybe they can be referred to us, and you probably do that?
Yeah, we try to do that, or if we have a lot of great grants, even if it is a great grant and we know it's close to your deadline, we'll say, hey, we think you should apply to a DMA SWA grant so that we can fund other projects that wouldn't be funded through that funding.
Super, because we have money available. We would like to get it out to the public and used. So you already know about us. Thank you. Thank you. And so if someone could maybe talk to me about the 40% in 2 years for the employee expense, if that's possible.
Sure, I'll try. The city manager, Mike Van Milligan, and Jennifer Larson can fill in anything I get wrong or miss here. But if you look at the change from the current fiscal year to next fiscal year, it's about $190,000 increase in the personnel cost. And you'll recall that earlier this year, through a budget amendment, you approved 2 positions in the Human Resources Department, which are in this budget. And those equal about $110,000 in that $190,000 in cost. And then there's a I'm sorry, that's not true?
Human Resources is a separate budget.
Oh, see, I told you Jennifer was correct where I was wrong.
That's why we work as a team, right?
Something else.
No, I'm not saying anything else. I'm crazy.
Okay. Good evening, Jennifer Larson, Director of Finance and Budget. There were 2 new positions approved in the 2023 recommended in the 23 recommended budget. There was the grant analyst position as well as the climate action coordinator. So those 2 positions with benefits would be close to the $200,000, and then in addition to that, there's the wage increase in 2023 as well as some health insurance cost increase.
I see. Well, it's not reflected in the personnel authorized FTE numbers. You see what I'm saying on the very front page? You mentioned being.
So in addition to those
that's not the
additional
whole story.
new positions, then there was some shifting. So the Office of Shared Prosperity, when it was created in last year's budget, was temporarily within the city manager's office, and now it's completely separate. So there was a data analyst position, and then also a part-time administrative position that moved from city manager's office to the Office of Shared Prosperity.
And was that in here that I missed that?
It is in the explanation, but I noticed under employee expense for those moves, it's showing as with a plus sign instead of a minus sign, so that's an error under number 6, but it does note that those 2 positions did move.
I see. And so employee expense includes benefits, but those aren't explicated right here, or are they? The benefits? So everything adds up, that we are able to look at everything that you give us and say, oh, here's where these numbers come from.
Right, so most of the costs are 2 improvement packages that are recommended. Yep. And then in the explanation, it talks about the 3.25% wage increase, the health insurance increase. That would be the majority of it.
Okay.
And then the other positions that move to Office of Shared Prosperity.
So that explains the 39% gain in 2 years, all that you talked about.
That would add up to almost 200,000, yes. But,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Okay. I actually do have a couple of, I guess I have one question. The parking benefit, I noticed the library is missing. What is the situation there? Because they're another downtown part of our organization, but I know that, also, under their own board of trustees, so I was just curious how that works.
So generally, when we think about kind of clumps of city employees, we put City Hall, the Annex, and the Multicultural Family Center together. I know, based on a conversation with Alexis Stager, that she's considering something similar for the Historic Federal Building.
I knew I was missing one. Yeah.
So the library would be another clump that we would potentially look at doing something similar. And again, we'd have to talk with their board.
Understood. Okay, so for this year then, we are only talking about the three spots that you mentioned today. We aren't looking at the library or here in the federal building. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was trying to think. I don't think I had another question. I just want to say how excited I am to see the sustainability coordinator position on this budget recommendation. The quote that you read earlier, Gina, I think explains why. The urgency with which we need to begin to move in a very complicated world that we currently live in, where there are a lot of other problems that we could be focusing on as well. It is a sort of an overarching one that we need to really be recognizing. So I very much appreciate that. And along with the fact that, and you kind of mentioned this too, and Terry did as well, we just have an incredible opportunity here as a city, being positioned the way we are with so much focus on this for so many years. The federal dollars flowing in for this particular issue in both equity and the environment, it's just an opportunity we cannot pass it up. As a city, we absolutely cannot pass it up. So I will continue to push for that, and I'm happy to see that here. So with that, no other questions or discussion or anything, then we're going to move on. Mike, you said you wanted to go over the city council budget, and we can close out with that?
Yes, I will. So once again, City Manager Mike Van Milligan, covering the city council budget, which starts on page 93 of tonight's book. There is a slight increase in the property tax support, and that's triggered by every 4 years the mayor and council before the general election can consider a wage increase. And in 2021, there was a salary compensation task force that recommended a wage increase that the council ended up approving of 5.81%. And so you spread that out over 4 years, and it's, fairly insignificant increase of $6,000 for this budget year, but as a percentage each year, spread over 4 years, fairly insignificant. But so anyway, that's mostly the reason for the very slight increase in the budget. And then in the performance measures, every performance measure you hear by every department during these budget hearings, you can talk about the council fingerprints on those. So you could take credit for all those performance measures. But, in addition to the hundreds of meetings and community events that council members attend over the year, I'd say that's a performance measure. One of the things that we include in the document is one very significant event that you attend, and that's the three-day strategic planning session in August. And those materials start on page 96 and talk about the 5-year goals the council established and the priorities that the council established. So I think from a performance measure perspective, you've got a lot to be proud of, and really, otherwise, there's no change in your budget.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike. And before we actually open for public comment for the last time tonight, I realized I missed a step here in the last one. Thank you, Gina, for your presentation. I think I said that first, but I want to make sure I say that again, just because I want to make sure I thank you for all the work that you've been doing, and Corey as well, and Terry, if she's still with us and hasn't flown too far away yet. We just very much appreciate all the work that you're constantly doing. I don't know if, again, anybody really realizes how much goes on in the city manager's office, so thank you for that. So with that, then, if we could, for the last time, open for public comment, please, Adrian.
At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss this public hearing may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for this public hearing. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for this public hearing. Please begin your input by stating your name and address.
All right. Anybody still partying with us? Any public comment virtually or in person? Okay.
No emails received.
All right. Back to the table then for any discussion. Okay. Well, with that, I believe we have closed out our first night, and we will see everybody again tomorrow. But seeing no further business, we are adjourned.